Hey everybody, producer Nick here. This week we're back with part two of our conversation with Jeffrey and Lauren Jensen. We hope you enjoy it.
Okay, Jeff. So there you were. You did the 75 hard, as Huberman talks about your anterior mid-cingulate gyrus. It was growing larger, doing hard things.
English,
I know,
please.
right?
What is that?
Your brain is learning to conquer these hard things, and you're getting better at them. But I noticed you said something about, and I even wrote it down. You liked keeping it fresh. You liked looking at a new motivating challenge, a goal, which was really neat. And we'll get maybe as you go along, you can tell us a little bit more about it. But maybe that's a strategy even to keep progress moving forward. And I think it was after that you actually got into bodybuilding, or what made you get into bodybuilding? Was it after that, and then what made you get into
Yeah,
bodybuilding?
so finished up Live Hard and had hired a new coach. So my coach that I was working with at the beginning of 75 Hard, great guy. We did a ton of like HIIT style workouts, really got me up and going. And he was in the transition of trying to open his own gym. And so he ended up doing that and absolutely crushed it. So I was looking for someone to work with.
Let me interrupt you. When you first started in the 75 hard or Live Hard, you mentioned you had a coach. Did you try to do it without a coach first and then with a coach, or did you start right off the bat with a coach?
No, so when I came out of the hospital in March of 2021, that's when I decided, hey, I'm going to hire somebody. I need to have the accountability. I need somebody. And so I hired a coach for 3 days a week. He would come to the office and train me. And then when I started 75 Hard, we still continued to do our 3 days a week, but obviously the rest of the week, I just did my own stuff. So sometimes he would help me with programming on like, hey, here's some workouts. But for the most part, I trained with him 3 days a week. We would do, a 45-minute workout together. And then the rest of the time, I just did my own stuff.
Was that an intuitive thing that, look, if I don't have a coach, I'm not going to do as well, or I need a coach? Or was it, I don't know what I'm doing, I need somebody, or was it a little bit of both, or maybe something else?
For me, coaching all comes down to 1,000% accountability. I have been around the fitness space for a long time, obviously with owning a meal prep company, being in the nutrition industry. I know exactly what I need to do. And most people watching this know exactly what they need to do. You might not know the name of every exercise or the fine tuning of things, but most people know, hey, I need to eat less calories, I need to move my body more. Like, most people know the basics of how to get in shape, but I think accountability is where the game changes, because without accountability, it's so easy just to like convince yourself, I don't have to do this today, or I don't need to eat this way, or whatever. You can spin anything to yourself. So I think
was
that
hard
is
to be,
something,
because you have to be vulnerable, don't you, Lauren, a little bit, to say like, okay, you can hire somebody and be accountable, but then if you resist that, or you have to let them into your space to call you out on stuff. Have you found that to be true? I mean, do you have the same perspective as Jeff, or?
For sure. So I think too, having that accountability, but also I know like as a woman, it can be so easy to get lost on Instagram and TikTok of, hey, here you should do keto. Oh, no, you should do paleo. Oh, no, don't eat eggs. Oh, you should do fasted cardio. Oh, it's so confusing. And so having a coach who knows your body and you're checking in with every single week, they're seeing how you respond to things. They're seeing how you respond to cardio, to fasted cardio, to this food, to that food, really helps. It's so that you don't have to go to TikTok or Instagram to
That's interesting.
tell you.
So Jeff is saying, and I agree with them, and you probably do, that most people know the basics. You're saying, yes, additionally, what your perspective is as a female, and it probably is like this for guys too, but I can see it being more for females, is that it's not even so much knowing what to do, because just most people, it's knowing, oh my gosh, it's the opposite. It's information deluge.
Yes.
It's like too much, and
Yes.
what of that information is actually going to work for you, and then personalizing it. That's interesting. So for you, it was more knowing a coach, knowing you, your particulars, your body, what you've been through, and keeping that dialed in for you. That probably helps with the accountability too, because they can come from a perspective that gives them a moral authority, like, hey, we've been on this journey together, or you know how you do this, or I know, yeah, you're right. Is that true? Or
Yeah, no, for sure. And the accountability is huge, just to have, like you said, like having that vulnerability to say like, yeah, I just binge ate some chips in the pantry,
Yeah.
to have that moment, but also kind of like realize, okay, what made me do that? What was it? Was it emotional binge eating? Did something bad happen at work? Did the kids make me upset? Like what made you do that? And really learning that, it really does help having a coach to kind of pull that out of you and ask those intuitive questions, and be accountable to your actions.
I think people, I don't know. I think I would forget about that aspect of it too. You think, oh, and maybe I know what to do. I don't really, but that's the benefit, is the accountability and personalizing it and helping you with the specific things that you need help with, or tailoring the plan to you and that kind of thing. So was it hard losing your coach at that time and then having to switch, or was it like this guy was so busy and hey, you got success, I'm glad for you, buddy, but I need somebody that can.
Yeah. So I think a couple things that you guys just made me think of. I think that having a coach is it's almost like a cheat code, right? It's the unlock to having a lot of success, but it is only the cheat code when you're willing to be coachable.
Right.
And so you guys just made me think about, from March until October, I wasn't really coachable. I had a coach, and I would come.
So for context for the listeners and for me, March to October,
So March is when I ended up in the hospital.
Okay.
With high blood pressure and blacking out and all the things. That's when I said, all right, I've got to change my life. Okay. I hired a coach 3 days a week from March until October. I trained 3 days a week.
But you weren't as coachable at that point, huh?
But I wasn't coachable. Like, I would come and do the workouts, but I wouldn't do anything outside of the workouts. I wouldn't eat the food properly. Like, I would eat 212, still like 4 days, 5 days a week. I would still have cheat meals on the weekend. I would still do the things that put me in a bad spot to start. And so when I did 75 hard and I had the mindset change, which I think is the most important part to this entire journey, is you have to change your mind first. That's when I became coachable. And so transitioning from my first coach to my second coach was honestly, it was pretty simple because yes, my original coach, he was having a lot of success. He was super busy. He didn't really have time for one-on-one coaching, and I knew that. And I was honestly very just excited for him and his new journey. So I wanted him to go and kind of like flourish. And then the coach that I ended up hiring is a pro bodybuilder. And so he brought a level of even more extreme accountability. And by this point, I was so on a mission to just get in incredible shape. Like I'd already finished 75 hard before I brought the new coach on. And so I'd already had that mindset shift. And so now I brought him on for 5 days a week, in-person training.
Let me ask you something. And I know it was a geeky thing to say, and it was, but there really is something to this about the anterior mid-cingulate gyrus, because when you described this is interesting. The 75 hard, those were specific things that every day when you had to do them, you didn't want to do them, right? I mean, they were literally very difficult, and that area of the brain grows, and it then becomes easier to do it. And not only that, the studies show that you start to seek out that, and you're describing that. You said the mindset. You talked about mindset change, becoming coachable, and then you talked about the next level and seeking out, and you kind of cranked up your desire to go to the next level too. So people, and I say that because people often say, I just can't get motivated, or I don't have the motivation but what you're telling me is that I was in a terrible spot. I made a decision, so I wasn't motivated necessarily. I mean, you could say that event motivated you, but it motivated you to make a decision. You made a decision, and then you followed through with the decision and doing those hard things. Then you got the motivation. I mean, you even said you went through from March all the way to October without the big mindset change. I mean, you made the decision and you followed through, which is excellent. But you see how that is developed. You're literally describing the development of a person in real time. And then it was after that building up and going through those hard, difficult things, you literally had a mindset change. We can see that clinically from a physician and medical perspective of PET scans.
Yeah, they say that your brain, like, explain that. It literally changes. Like, I've heard on a different podcast and I know you can actually explain it, but that, like, you'll be where, like, you're seeking, like, your brain seeks your phone.
Yes.
For, like, pleasure, right? Or your brain seeks McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or binging Netflix. And like your brain will figure out ways to make that happen. But when you like change your habits and discipline, your brain then creates different, like it physically moves, right?
Physically makes more neural connections. You get a higher density of neurons in a certain area of the brain, or they become thicker. They conduct their the electricity, the ions, the postsynaptic, the post and presynaptic clefts, on each neuron changes. The amount of chemical, dopamine, serotonin, neurotransmitters increases in the space between them. I mean, you're right.
So basically, you just kind of reform habits, and then your brain gets rewired to want the healthy habits.
Right.
Which is exactly what you did.
But the funny thing is well, not funny. The unfortunate thing is there seems to be, and we see this, we talk about it, right? Not a default, but you can backslide, so to speak, and those neural connections can kind of get down-regulated and kind of get lazy. But that action produces more. It's a snowball effect. But if you stop, it will reverse. Just like being in shape and then getting out of shape.
Well, that's why too. Like so many people look at 75 Hard as a challenge, and it's not. It's a program, and there's a huge difference between a challenge and a program. Well, a challenge is something you do once. A program is something you live out forever, right? So a program is you're reprogramming yourself. So I may not do 75 hard tasks every day, but a lot of the principles from the program, like doing hard things, I've carried on now for almost 3 years.
Right.
And so it's funny that you say, like, you go from wanting to binge Netflix or food or whatever. And they always say, especially with people who are addicts, which if we all get down to the root of things, we're all addicted to something. It's always best to replace an addiction with another addiction.
Right.
Just make sure the new addiction's positive.
Right.
And so now I found, I used to always hear people be like, "Oh man, like if I don't get to the gym, like it's terrible." I'd be like, "You're out of your mind." I am like, if I don't train at least 5 days a week, like I am.
Feels weird, doesn't it?
It feels terrible. Yeah. So like I would say I'm addicted to the gym now.
For sure.
And I never used to understand that, but it's the same thing. You retrain your mind to find your dopamine and those hits that you want from new pleasures, so to say. But doing something hard every day is what's going to keep you in check. And I can see it too, like not being on prep now for the last 12, 16 weeks and going into more of like an off-season phase has definitely I've definitely gotten a lot slacker on my cardio. Like there's definitely things that like you're so used to doing the hard stuff every single day. And as soon as you stop making that part of your daily routine, it is very easy how the dial can slowly start to turn down.
Well, it was interesting too, talking to Lauren and both you guys, but Lauren was a little bit newer to it. Lauren, you also got into bodybuilding. I'm sorry for hopping around a little bit, but just to piggyback on that. And I remember, and we'll come to it, hopefully you can tell us a little bit about your journey too. But I remember you saying when you were in the height of the pre-show prep, and I remember the scene in your social media accounts, and Jeff too, but Jeff had been kind of on this road almost contiguously prior to you. So it was hard it wasn't the difference in pre-Jeff and post, prep Jeff was not as evident to me, but for you, it was much more evident.
It was so new for me.
It was
such
so
a
new for you.
Experience.
And you looked so happy and so dialed in, even though, and it was hard. I could tell you were working hard. You were busting your butt. And I remember you saying like afterwards, you were like, it was a big emotional letdown. And
afterwards.
You
miss it.
Yeah, you missed it. And you were like, gosh, I want to get back into it.
Yes. And a lot of people say that in their first bodybuilding prep. They're like, oh my gosh, like don't wish the days away. Like, cause you're definitely counting down the days to your show. Cause you're just like, man, I have to do X, Y, and Z for so many more days. My show day is X, Y, and Z days away. And it just feels so daunting. And then they're like, you're going to get to your show day and be afterwards and be like, man, I miss prep. And 1,000%, like
crazy.
Never thought I would say that.
Never thought you'd say it, did you?
Get done and you're like, man, I miss that, because we say to our clients all the time, I'm like, I was just on the phone with a client before we started this. Like, she was like, I want abs now. I'm like, okay, we all want abs now. You have to learn to love the process. And that's what honestly prep for me taught me, was like, I just loved the discipline. You have to get addicted to becoming your better self every single day.
Was it, did you realize that during that first prep in the moment, or was it afterwards when you weren't doing it, where you're like, oh, wait a second. Oh, that was awesome. Like, I do love that process. Or did you have an inkling of it then? or was it
I think
really?
in the middle of prep, I just thought it was so hard. It was very, towards the end, you get so low calorie that you can barely function.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be a mom and a wife and business owners and also trying to do your things. And for me, I was also like nervous because I didn't know what show day was going to look like. What was my body going to look like at show day? So I had all of that, but I just was like so focused on getting my task done. But since stopping, like being done with prep and kind of into my improvement off season, there's days where I might miss my cardio or I might leave a little bit of my water, and I can tell the biggest difference in my skin and my energy and my way of confidence and showing up that you get addicted to wanting to have a bigger goal or something to work towards and doing those things every single day because they make such a big difference in your life.
Yeah. And that's the good news, right? You know, you look at this lifestyle change and seeking out a healthier lifestyle. It looks daunting, but there's so much that comes with it. It's positive, that it's worth it. It's worth it to go through that. And then on the other side, it turns out you kind of wait. The process was actually the thing that was the best part of it.
It's honestly, it's almost a little bit annoying, but I have become so addicted to being my perfect optimized self that I no longer, which is a good thing, but can also be crazy that sometimes you want to just like, oh, I should have like a cheat meal. I don't even look forward to those things because I know it's going to get me underneath my optimization. And I am now addicted to feeling 100% my best.
Once you've been there, once you've been to the mountaintop and you see that optimized self, it's hard to go back.
Yeah.
So when you got your new coach, was it in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to transition to bodybuilding, or was it just I need a new coach to continue this process?
No. So I needed a new coach to continue the process.
Okay.
And I had known the coach that we're now, Jess Stansel, for a long time. He used to train at a gym that we went to. So we had a relationship, and I knew that he was out on his own now. And so I just reached out and said, hey, look, I'm looking for someone 5 days a week. We've got a gym at the office, like, all those things. And he was like, yeah, it sounds great. And so we started working together. I was still doing Live Hard. So I went through Live Hard with him as my coach.
Did I miss something? Is there a 75 hard and Live Hard, or are they one thing?
So 75 hard is the introduction to the program. So it's 75 days of all the different tasks. And then Live Hard is the
phase
full year. So you have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 that you complete within a year. So I did that, and as we were going through that together, he had always like kept saying like, oh, I think you should do a show. Like, I think you have potential. Like, I think you could put on a lot of muscle. And I was just like, not for me, man.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I was like, when he brought Jess on, like, I knew who Jess was because he had trained me as well, like, at our previous gym. And I was like, now he does bodybuilding. Like, I just want to make sure, like, you're not doing this, right? Like, I just want to make sure, like, this is not.
Why did you have that perspective?
Well, I just was like, it just seems extreme. Like, I had this very outside perspective of bodybuilding, but I just was like, I just want to make sure, like, that's not where we're going, right? Also, clearly, as you can tell, I have no clue where we're going half the time, right? I don't know where things can land us. No, that's not true. But I was just like, I just want to make sure because I'm just not sure, like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, how long have you guys been married at this point?
This June will be 12 years, but we've been together for
We've been to 12,
so
like
been
10 years.
A number of years, had 2 kids.
We were been together for, at that point, probably
for 11 and a half years.
Okay, it's been a long time.
Listen, women, you got to know these.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and for most of that point, and Jeff wasn't into that kind of thing. So, this was a big change, and in a short period of time. Given the radical change. So I get why you'd be kind of like.
It wasn't like don't do that. It was just like, I'm just like, what are we doing
here?
here? Where are we going?
Yeah.
And even when we hired Jess, because Lauren wasn't training with him yet, I even remember being like, I love Jess. His physique is insane. But I remember telling Lauren, like, yeah, I don't want to look like that. Like, I'm not trying to be like. I
was like, yeah, like, don't
massive and stuff. And now I'm like, Jess, I'm trying to make you look small, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we started working out with him. He kept not pushing, but very like kindly just saying like, hey man, I think you would do really well. Like, you should do a show. And I was just like zero interest. I was actually super interested in the tactical games, which is basically like a mixture of like CrossFit, functional fitness, and shooting.
Yeah.
And so I was like gung-ho on that. That is what I wanted to train for. And like I said earlier, I've kind of learned that I have to have a goal. I'm very goal-oriented. So if I have something to focus on, that just helps me. It's like an extra layer of accountability. And so that was kind of the goal. So we were doing a lot of strength training, but also like functional stuff. Like we would do tons of like farmers walks and just like
you and Jess.
Yeah.
Jess? Oh, okay, because
So-
I thought of him only as just only pure bodybuilding.
No, so
No,
like
he was
we did
helping them
very
train
like
for that.
little bodybuilding style
okay,
stuff
interesting.
in the first year of our
Okay.
coaching relationship. And about it was probably like May of 2022 that I'm a big YouTube guy. Like I love education. I love to learn. And at this point I had kind of transitioned. Most of my time on YouTube was spent looking at camera gear and like filming and editing and stuff like that. And now it had kind of transitioned into, athletics and bodybuilding and fitness type stuff. And I found Christian Guzman's channel, and he every year would do a series called Summer Shredding, where he would basically go from being like an average looking guy, and he would spend like 12 or 16 weeks and do like a show prep.
Him personally,
And
Okay.
he would document the entire thing. And then he would compete in a like a local bodybuilding show. And so I started watching his 2022 Summer Shredding series, and he does such a phenomenal job on YouTube. Like you would think it's a Netflix show. The quality, like the production value is so good. And so I ended up just like binge watching.
That's what we would watch at night.
Oh, really?
And
Kind of got hooked on
watch
it.
the process and really was like, man, like bodybuilding is way more than I thought it was. And I could see the discipline. I could see like the nuances of just like all this stuff that I kind of learned in 75 hard, but on an even higher elevated level. And so I remember him making this announcement that in 2023, they were going to take Summer Shredding and kind of turn it into like an official league and like make this bodybuilding league and have shows kind of around the country and around the world. And I remember going in the next day and seeing Jess and being like, all right, let's do this. I think I'm ready to do a bodybuilding show.
How much weight how much weight had you lost from the point you did 75 hard to the point you saw this and went into Jess and said, hey, let's do it?
So I'd probably lost at that point probably 130, 140 pounds.
Wow.
I'd already like pretty much had
That's a person.
Yeah, my weight loss transformation. At this point, I still had all my loose skin. And so I was like, hey, I want to do a bodybuilding show, but I'd already had a consultation for skin removal surgery. And so I was having surgery in July, and me just being the person that I am, I was like, all right, I've got a goal and we could document it. Like, how do we turn this into something that could help grow 212, kind of put my marketer hat on. And so I was like, you know what, let's start a YouTube channel and we'll do a series called Skin Surgery to Stage. And so we launched about a month before my skin removal surgery, and I literally just started documenting everything. So I had filmed pretty much all of 75 Hard and Live Hard on Instagram. So I had a lot of like vertical phone shots that I was able to use throughout the journey. But we started documenting it. I had skin removal surgery in July. We actually filmed that. So if you go to YouTube, you can actually watch the surgery. Dr. Cranford did it, which you actually know.
I trained with him.
Yeah.
He was a year or
med
two
school.
behind me. Yeah. I mean, I remember, it's funny because I can literally, in my mind, I remember when I was maybe it was a fellow too, or maybe he was in his, I don't know. I can just remember these images in my mind of sitting at the bedside operating on people together, like me and him, like literally next to him. That's so so wild. What a small world. Yeah.
So he did the surgery. He was super cool. He was like, yeah, we'll film the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
So they filmed the whole surgery, so you can watch all that.
It was a very long surgery.
It was like
It was
8
an
hours.
8-hour
super
surgery.
long surgery. Yeah. What is, I've never asked you, what about the pain and the recovery?
Oh my gosh.
And then I want to get Lauren's perspective too. What
So
was
all that's documented on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch. But I would say I'm very glad that I was naive going into the surgery.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't really know what to expect. The first 2 weeks,
naive because maybe you wouldn't have done it, or been a little
No, he definitely would have done it.
I would have done it, but I think like I kind of just went in.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
just like.
But in this case, it was good.
It was
right?
a lot.
I was just pumped to be able to like get rid of the loose skin.
Yeah.
He honestly had, like, we thought about it later, if you want to say like what you know you're going to say.
Yeah,
what you
so
had.
I had a skin only tummy tuck, where they basically make an incision from hip to hip.
Mhm.
And then I had gynecomastia surgery because I had enlarged breast tissue from high estrogen, being overweight for such
Man
a long
boobs.
time.
Yeah.
And then when I had that surgery, it also left me with excess skin. And so I had skin removal done on my chest as well. And then just for fun, we threw in lipo on my love handles, because if you're going to be under, you know, you
Go
might as
for
well
it, yeah.
might as well
Get
hit
the-
a spot that's
But
really hard to
so
get rid
we
of.
were like, oh, that sounds great. We'll do it all at one time. He came out of surgery, and I was like, dude, you basically just had a mommy makeover.
Mhm.
You've got here, and you have here, and it was a lot.
Mhm.
It was
The
a
first 2 weeks were brutal. You have to walk like in a bent, hinged position. Like you can't stand up.
Do you have to wear anything? You have drains, probably JP
Drains.
drains. and-
strains,
yeah, and
compressions,
compression binders. and
very
shit, yeah.
hard. Whenever you take those compression bindings off, because you have those fluid shifts, the person can get very, very weak.
Yeah.
And so that was very hard. And here you are. I mean, it's me trying to get around his body to put these compression dressings on. And so for the first
It's
couple of
massive.
weeks, it was
I remember
hard.
being in ICU and people were in really edematous states, wrapping them in to get rid of and you can put somebody into cardiac failure.
Yes.
Overload just for
Yes.
It's amazing how much fluid can be in the extra
yeah.
vascular space.
Yes.
So here we
Yes.
go. Look
Yes.
at that. Yeah, that's exactly what I imagined. The
And
gall
also,
binders, the
I got some
JP drains.
real-
Yeah.
I got some real, and they let me pull those out, so I got to pull those out at home. So we have those on
Nice.
film too. But
wow.
there's
Oh,
the actual. There's
wow.
Dr. Cranford doing his
That's-
work.
That's amazing. He was pretty good surgeon, pretty good resident. When I remember from my training, he was very good.
So
A
good.
lot of those guys were really good.
And then how many pounds? Like I remember they took
Wow.
a picture of there's us at home.
Yeah, I think it was
Um,
like 7 pounds of skin or something
Mm.
like that. Maybe 8 pounds of skin.
It's amazing.
There's a really cool clip of me going to CVS at 3 a.m. when he was impacted.
Yep. So I had a fun event on day 7 where I couldn't use the bathroom. Most pain
Did
I've
you have to get
ever
it?
been in
Oh,
my
it's
life.
terrible.
I got an enema. He goes,
I
I
was
don't
like,
want to
did
do
you
it.
have-
I said, bend over now.
Literally wanted to die.
Just so the audience knows, Lauren is a registered nurse. So it was like, I mean, she does have the medical training.
Yeah.
You have to listen to her, man.
She's
She
got
knows-
training
Yeah.
to shove something up my
You
butt.
did say
Yeah.
multiple times. What did you say? Your recommendation for anyone going through this surgery? Like,
just take an enema before. Just
oh,
like,
I was gonna
shoot
say,
that thing up early.
you had said like
Clean
you
that
better
colon
have
out.
like a person.
Oh yeah. If you're gonna have skin removal surgery, you better have a freaking rock solid spouse, because it is next level.
It's
But
a
yeah,
lot.
it's interesting, because my advice to anyone who's going down that path is it is going to be an extremely hard journey, but it will be over in a blink of an eye.
Do you
And
ever
then-
look back on it, both of you, and say, "Oh my gosh, look at this"? I mean,
I think
or
we
is
do
it
that
just,
a lot on
Through our
entire
entire
life.
life.
We go through a lot of hard things, and in the moment, you're just like, you just put your head down, and you just power through it, and then when you get to the other side, you're like, dang, how did we even go through that?
We've always said this. We never realized we're going through hard times until after, until we talk about them.
Yeah.
Because
I think you realize it, but you're
What's
just
that a
like,
byproduct of? Is it a byproduct of you guys are just so good at powering through stuff, or commitment to each other, or the way you're raised, or your take on life, or all the above, or just
it's
all
probably
of-
a mix of everything.
Yeah.
I also think that, like, when you're going through hard stuff, there's no point in like complaining or whining. Just
a lot
get
of
it
people do
done.
though, and a lot of people can't go or have a difficulty going through. hard
but
stuff.
there's
So,
like legit nothing, and that is my go-to emotional state
what
is like reality, complaining, like just stuck in it. Like that is kind of my
Really?
yes, which seems very odd, but that
yeah,
to
you
me
don't. I don't. See
that is a normal state for me.
Hmm.
That is where I feel emotionally safe. Is
Mhm.
that like just like a thing? Like
Yeah.
that's my emotional homeostasis, but that's not a healthy habit.
It's not. Yeah.
And so we have had a lot through our marriage. We've had a lot of tough conversations where he will just say to me like, okay, but what is that doing to the situation? Okay, yes, this is our reality, but what can we do to help it? We can do these actions. We can think towards this. We're going to do this. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
now,
And
what do
then
you
you're
do
like,
for him? So that's
I probably
yang.
bring him back to reality. He's like, but look where we're going. But I'm like, but look where we are. Yeah, I think there's definitely like we bring a mix to the table for sure.
Yeah.
But it's mostly he definitely brings me up in my emotional state. But And so there are times that we've been through where we're like, man, this is hard. But yeah, we just head down, grind. And then it's like later people are like, we're telling our story and people are like, you did what? And we're just like, oh yeah, like, I don't know.
I think my thing, life's going to go, like, the year's going to go by no matter what's happening.
Right.
So
life doesn't care.
Unless unless someone like in your family or close friend or your kids, like unless someone's dying, like everything else is figure outable, right? Like everything else, like it may suck. It may not be the best situation. It may be a terrible situation, but like you can figure it out.
Is that a trademarked phrase? Figure outable?
I think it is.
Somebody did say that.
Marie Forleo, I think is her name.
I was kidding.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, it actually is. It's a book. Everything is figure outable. It's
Oh,
very
really?
good.
Figure outable. Okay.
Yeah, none of my knowledge comes from my head.
Yeah.
I thought that was straight off the dome, man. That was figure outable.
But yeah, I think so many times in life people just focus on the negative, and they have this victim mentality. And they're
great book, highly recommend.
The fact that
this is why this is crazy. Producer Nick is always on it, man. Look at that.
Yeah,
everything is figure outable.
It's a very good book,
and it's very true.
Did I get it? Marie Foley? Wow.
Yeah,
that's so true because that negative mindset, I do that sometimes. I'm probably more like that, but I'm probably find myself somewhere in the middle. But I can relate to that at times doing that. And Morgan and I have had similar to you and Jeff scenarios like that, but. What I noticed is that when you get negative like that, it paralyzes you.
Oh my gosh.
And so there is a solution. And in the mindset you're talking about, it helps you at least have options and get out of that and not freeze up and lock up. And
I actually heard something that Alex Hormozy said, and he said, if you're sad, it's because you don't realize there's options.
Right.
And if you have anxiety, it's because you haven't made decisions.
Right.
And so for me, when I think about reality and like, oh, life is stressful and this is happening, yes, that's all happening, but the reason I'm anxious and focusing on it is because I'm not making decisions on how to get out of it or how to make it better or solutions to the problems. And so whereas I feel like we have really good communication where I will say, hey, paint the picture of this is where we are, this is what I'm struggling with. And then he will really paint the picture and kind of just like clear the clouds and say, and these are your options. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. And then I can make a decision and move on. And that is just really helpful.
Yeah. And anxiety also comes from either being in the past or being in the future. If you're in the present, you can't be anxious.
That's very true.
So to me, it's like, all right, focus on the present, look at what you can do to solve the issue. And sometimes there might not even be an answer, but it's like, I know being negative is not going to help it. So to me, it's just like have that positive outlook and you're going to go a lot farther in life with positivity than you are with negativity.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
100%.
Yeah. So you saw Guzman doing his thing, opening up the summer shredding to be an actual league and open up to national, international competitors.
Yep.
And Jess, I want to do this. Lauren's like, what?
Wait, now, okay, we're doing it. You said you weren't. No, we're doing it.
Exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so what's the next step?
So
you picked a show.
So I picked a show. Well, they hadn't announced summer shredding yet, but I knew that I wanted to compete kind of early in the year. And so I had my skin removal surgery. Literally the day that I was cleared for exercise, I started phase 3 of 75 or of Live Hard. And the caveat is phase 3 has to be completed the 30 days prior to the day you started 75 hard a year ago. So I started 75 hard October 6th.
Day 335 instead of 365.
Correct. So I started 75 hard October 6th of 2021, which meant I had to start phase 3 September whatever.
So it was a big thing with Dr. Cranford. Like,
so I was
we
like,
can do this surgery
date
date
cleared to start this. Because I did it because if you mess up, the way that Live Hard works is if you fail any part of it, you have to start over.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're not going back to the beginning.
I really don't want to start this over again. So I was cleared. So we started. I did phase 3, which was like right after I just had this massive surgery. And then we kind of went into like an off season type where I was
no days off, huh? Hashtag no days off.
Yeah, finally started eating in like a caloric surplus because I had been in a deficit for almost 3 years now, just constantly.
Okay, so what were your strategies for the bodybuilding? How did it shift?
So Jess kind of created a plan. We upped my calories. We started eating more. We started training a little bit differently, and that kind of led into January. of 2023, where then I had one more surgery. So I had another chest surgery to get rid of some more excess skin that wasn't able to be taken off in the first.
Well, you chose
surgery.
instead of having the typical underneath the pecs incision.
Yes.
He chose to have more, this is why Dr. Cranford's so amazing.
Circumareolar?
Yes. So he knew it was going to take, because basically he had to take the mammary glands, take them out, let the skin kind of get back, and then go back in, take more, and fix it. But now he only has areolar scars as opposed to underneath the pecs.
That's
yeah. So I actually have one more surgery next month, and then that'll be the completion. But the great thing when you have a great surgeon that knows what they're doing and can paint a vision for you is, yes, I'll have to have had 3 surgeries, but by the time we're done, my chest will look like I've never had any
Those guys
surgery.
are awesome. They're literally like artists.
Yeah.
And
if you, I have a lot of friends in the fitness space who have had skin removal, and they look great, but most of them have massive scars underneath their chest, and it's just, when you want to do bodybuilding and you want to be aesthetic, it's just that never goes away. And so I'm super thankful that he was able to kind of like paint the vision of like, hey, we could do this in phases, and we could get you looking as close to being normal without having to really know that you went through this. So anyways, to move on from that, I had one more surgery, and then we started prep, and I still didn't know when summer shredding was going to happen. We knew that there was probably going to be a show in June or July, because that was just kind of standard for what they had always done. But Jess was competing in a show in April in Charlotte, and I thought, hey, that would be a great show for me to do. 212 does a ton of business in Charlotte. It just seemed like a good fit. And so that's the show I decided to do. I decided to do an NPC show in Charlotte, North Carolina.
NPC, what's that?
It's actually don't even know.
Physique
usually a non-player
National Physique Committee. So it's like the amateur league of bodybuilding.
Okay.
So I decided to do that show, and we started prep. And I would say about halfway through prep, Summer Shredding made an announcement that they were going to do a show in Tampa, Florida, and it was the weekend before the Charlotte show.
So we're like, you'll already be show ready.
Jess was like, hey, I really feel like you could be ready for this show. And Summer Shredding is kind of known for their transformation category, whereas like the NPC, they don't really do that. It's more just like your standard bodybuilding type show. And so I really wanted to do transformation. I felt like I had a great story that I really wanted to share with a lot of people. And I almost didn't do Tampa. Like I was very, very close to not doing it. And
Tampa, Summer Shredding.
Well, it was a lot. It was a lot to figure out. Like I was like, oh, okay, now we're going to get we're going to have to find some more for the kids. Okay, now this is the week before. Okay, just like logistically. Okay, now we're going to spend money on another show. Okay, we're going to go to Tampa. Okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah. But
how do you? So were there psychological aspects of bodybuilding that you were learning that help you deal with those setbacks and maintain your motivation through those tough things that you had to figure out?
Yeah, I mean, I think bodybuilding it all comes down to extreme discipline, and I feel like anytime you have extreme discipline, like it's a lot easier to win because you can just say like, hey, this is what has to happen, and I just know I've got to get it done. So I think that obviously has helped me. But I'm so glad that we did Tampa. Like that was like, that show literally changed everything for us. So if I hadn't have just made it happen. And
in what way, what do you mean it changed everything for you guys?
So we went down to Tampa, we competed, I won the show.
I made this weird comment in the car.
Yeah. On the way down, we drove, my parents went with us, and Lauren jokingly said, hey, if you win the show, I'll compete at the championship with you. I'll do bikini, which is the women's, like, that's one of their categories.
Had you been thinking about getting into bodybuilding, seeing him do this journey, or
like,
what made you...
in my own mind, like, ooh, this could be cool, you know? Like,
but
I
you hadn't really
said it out
loud. She hadn't said anything to me about it.
I was not doing bodybuilding. Like, I was.
That was super foreign.
Doing HIIT workout. I was working out. Yeah. I was fit.
Mm-hmm.
I had been posting like my workouts on social media. I was doing ruck walks. Like I was on my own journey. I had lost probably a good amount of weight, but I was not bodybuilding.
Yeah.
What was the motivation for you to get into bodybuilding, Lauren?
The bet.
Yeah, basically the bet. I mean, that's kind of what put it on the table for me. Like I was like, okay, if you do it.
But what was the motivation? was just seeing Jeff's transformation and kind of getting curious about it? Or?
Yeah, and I think too, just seeing the changes that he made in his body, I wanted to see if I could do it. I never did 75 hard, so I never put myself through that, and I'm probably not like that. That would not be something that I would have chosen to do because I just don't typically do hard things well prior to doing prep.
Well, hold on. Wait. You had how many babies?
2,
Okay.
4 pregnancies,
right.
2 babies.
So I don't know that you don't do hard things.
I probably don't give myself credit.
I
yes.
think women chronically don't give themselves credit, but I think there is a difference in the things that women choose to pursue. I just don't even think sometimes women realize how strong they are.
Correct. I guess I should say Jeffrey is one that likes to have some crazy astronomical goal to go after. That is typically not my personality. I typically don't need the dangling stick and like chase it. I can just make healthy decisions every day because I like that.
I'm just simple. Just put a carrot in front of me and just dangle it. Maybe not a carrot.
I don't think you want a carrot.
Pizza.
But yeah, so.
But at the same time, you were making the healthy decisions every day, but maybe you weren't going out of your comfort zone.
Yes. So let me say that I had been in this place with my gym. At this point, I had a trainer 2 days a week that was meeting me at the 212 gym. So it wasn't Jess, it was someone else who used to coach me as well and loved her. She just was, because I felt like at my gym, I want to do something more. Like I noticed I was lifting and the other guys that were in the gym class with me, I was lifting as heavy or heavier than them. And I was like, I'm not really being challenged. And then I felt like I wanted to lift heavier, but I safely couldn't do it because it was a HIIT workout. So it was fast and I could see where I was going to be prone to injuries. And so I started training 2 days a week at our 212 gym. So that's where I currently was. Now we're headed down to Tampa in the car and I'm like, this is kind of cool. You know, he's had this crazy transformation. His body looks amazing. He's pushed himself way out of his comfort zone and kind of deep down, if I was to think about it, I was kind of yearning to do something different or have like a confidence boost, do something so far out of my comfort zone.
And would you say that, I mean, I don't know. When you get on stage, Jeff, from what I've seen, and you described it, it's kind of like a beach body look. Is it called classic physique? No, it's not. It's called.
So I did transformation, but typically, like the style of shorts that I wore would be for men's physique.
Men's physique,
which started out as kind of like a beach body look. Now it's transitioned to like.
But I mean, you wear board shorts on stage. Like, I mean, that's something you would do at the beach anyway.
Right.
Yeah. For females, I mean, I don't know. I think women get judged a little bit more harshly because they're like judging themselves. They feel like you got to be the best mom, you got to be the best wife, you got to be the best this and that, and then your appearance. It just, I don't know. When I see a guy, on social media in general, I think guys are like, "Oh man, that dude's pretty ripped. That's pretty awesome." Where girls are like, "Oh, maybe I should be like that good-looking girl," or feel, it's more of a, I don't know. It just seems like a harsher thing to deal with. So I would assume, thinking about Mama 2, you're doing the HIIT workouts, hadn't really been in bodybuilding, thinking about getting on a stage in a, like, is it a string bikini or what is it?
Yes.
I mean,
that's
a big deal, right?
I basically said that in the car.
Putting it out there on the line.
Yes,
right?
I basically said that in the car and then was kind of like, oh, okay, well, what did I just say out loud? And I know my head, like, okay, if you throw that out, like, that's what you're going to do. But then I was like, I'm just going to, like, watch the show this weekend and, like, see how it is. Like, how does it make me feel? Like, do I think it's something I could do? So then we drove down.
Yeah. And the whole thing with Summer Shredding is they had 5 shows, and each show was a qualifier. And then they had a championship show. So you had to...
All the same venue?
No, so they had a Tampa show, they had 2 Houston shows, they had a Toronto show, and so at every show you had an opportunity. If you came, for most shows it was top 3, but some of the bigger shows it was top 5. And so if you qualified, you then got to compete again in the championship. And so that was kind of the philosophy is if I won Tampa, then the day before the championship was a final qualifier. And so Lauren said, if you win and you are going to go to the championship, then I'll compete the day before in the qualifier so that we can say like, hey, as a couple, we prepped together, we did a show, basically the same weekend. And so I
But
won.
he had to win
Tampa.
first. So I was like,
so I had to win. So
You're
I won.
like, yeah,
I won.
She's
Tampa.
like, the chance.
no,
Yeah.
Were you surprised he won?
there was a lot of feelings. Like we talk about this.
Like clearly you were happy, but I mean,
oh my gosh.
might have
I mean,
been-
yes. Once I got there and saw the competition, like yes, like. But there were multiple times that day, like because you do pre-judging, and then there's a lull in your day, and then you go back for finals. So you do something in the morning, and then you go back because they want to see, can you hold your look? Do you get better?
No, exactly,
like it's a whole
yeah.
thing. And even going to bed the night before, like I remember, so normally you do like a shot of tequila or some sort of alcohol to dry out. Like it's kind of like a bodybuilding tradition. And so we're all down there.
You do the shot the day before, or
so typically the night
before.
before your
Night
show,
before, okay.
you'll take like a shot of tequila or vodka. Some people do like a glass of red wine because it's a natural diuretic.
Yeah,
it's going to dehydrate you, and you're on
It's
so
fun.
low calories. It's
and
like
you're
calms
depleted your
your
water.
nerves.
Yeah,
but it does make you kind of
extra
look drier.
buzz.
Yeah,
for
you
the
sleep a little bit better.
Yeah.
You're nervous.
Right.
but I obviously knew the backstory. Okay, so like I knew, like I had a biased view because I had lived next to this man every single day, waking up and doing the things that he said he was going to do, losing the weight, being so determined, having 3 skin surgeries, like then saying he was going to do it. I mean, I've been with this man for my whole life practically.
Was that a more determined? Was that a Jeff? Was that a version of Jeff that was more determined and had more fortitude, or had more willpower than you had ever seen before? Or was it the same?
No,
person,
I have anything this man says he is going to do, he does above and beyond.
Okay.
Like honestly, whatever it is, it's honestly shocking. Like you could tell him tomorrow, you want to go play tennis? He's gonna show up in the best tennis outfit, and honestly, he's gonna like somehow be really good at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating, but also he is going to like, he'll probably stay up all night tonight learning how to, I don't know what you do with the tennis ball. Like that's him. He's going to like soak it all in.
So it
he
didn't
has a
surprise you
desire
how he
for
had stuck to it and
self-excellence.
How well he stuck to it, and
No, he just has to, like he said, he has an addictive personality. He just has to have a healthy addiction. So no, I kind of have this biased view of like, of course he's going to win. Like he literally has put in, there's no one else that could have outworked him. But you don't know in bodybuilding, you don't know who's going to show up on the stage. You don't know who's going to be there. And we got there and the competition was hard. There were some people that I was like, man, I don't know. And so it was difficult because I was like, God, but I want him to win so bad. Like I want this for him. But it came down to like literally like the moment. And it was so cool. Remember Jason showed up, his brother drove through the night. We didn't know he was coming. So his mom and dad are there. I'm there. Our coach and his wife are there as well. And we're literally sitting in the pre-judging morning part. And I turn around and Jason walks in, his brother. And I'm like, what? Unannounced.
Yeah.
He literally had driven through the night from South Carolina to Tampa. So I think it was like 7 hours. He couldn't find a hotel.
Taylor Swift was in town.
Taylor Swift is in town.
Swift.
Everything was insane. He stayed in like a Motel 6. He was like, it was for like 2 hours. He got in at like 3, came to the show at like 10 as Jeffrey's like walking. It was just a really cool. It was a very cool moment.
Yeah.
Were you doing any self-talk? Were you guys like,
all the things
kind of
backstage.
prep, mental prep or anything like that?
The night before, I was in my head. There was another guy who's competing. And of course, like when you're doing these type of shows, it's really easy on social media to start finding who's going to be in the show.
You compare.
And so like I was kind of looking at his pictures and I was like, gosh dang, this guy, like he looks pretty good. And so the night before, I was definitely in my head of like, all right, like I've got to bring it. But I feel like once I got there and we got backstage, that the one thing I do love about Jess is he's such a calming spirit as a coach when it comes to show day. And so, like, he's just very, like, we've got this. Like, just stone-faced, just cool, calm, and just we were backstage, and he would just say, hey, I want you to do this, or, like, have this salt packet, or eat this Reese cup, or have these chocolate-covered espresso beans, or
but it sounds
whatever.
like to me, too, though, that is good, and that is important, but it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, all T's have been crossed, all I's have been dotted, and you had done the work.
For sure.
So if you've done the work, I think that gives you
There's still a little bit. So with bodybuilding, you're trying to peak, right? You're trying to come in at your peak physique at the right moment. And so there are definitely people who can walk on stage and miss the mark.
Yeah. Too much water.
You know, there's just certain things. And that's why, especially in bodybuilding, having a coach is so crucial, because you could make changes within minutes doing certain things. And even from the morning to the afternoon show, you could completely change how you look, good or bad, depending on what you do. And so, yes, we had done the work. We did everything we needed to do up until that point, but you still kind of have to like be on your game. You have to make sure your water's correct, your sodium intake's correct. You need fast acting carbs. You need some sugar to get a pump, because at this point you've depleted your muscles so much. Now you have to fill them back out so you look a certain way. So there's still a lot of things that go on. But having him there, like, he was so calm and just like, there was no hesitation. It was like, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And so when I went on stage, I also had like the biggest cheering section in the entire audience.
I'm very loud. I'm a big.
And so I was doing my routine, and all I could hear is just people screaming their heads off.
We also got most of the crowd to cheer for Jeffrey. Like, we would be sitting there and we're like, okay, this number is going to come on. Please make sure you cheer for Jeffrey.
Yeah. So it was a great experience, and obviously one that which qualified me for the championship. And that's where I say, like, doing that show changed everything for us, because of the opportunity to then go to Houston in October and compete in the championship. And obviously that sparked Lauren to kind of go down her journey of doing bodybuilding, and that led us to doing a prep together, which I feel like we already have a really strong, tight relationship, but I feel like that even made us tighter, because now we're going through like really, really hard stuff together. And when I say really hard stuff, like, this isn't cancer.
Right.
Like, this is something we chose to do, but it's still difficult, and it's still very mentally taxing. It's physically taxing. You have to have discipline to do it. And I think going through that with your spouse it's just a very interesting dynamic, because if you've never done a bodybuilding prep or something like 75 hard, it's very, very hard to relate to people that have done it. And so doing it together was super nice, because now we both kind of understand what it takes, how you feel, and so it's much easier to kind of support each other on the journey.
What surprised you most? Because he won 2 championships, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So I won Tampa,
and then so you had to come through and.
Well, so they literally, like, I'm seeing him for the first time. He's walking out with Jess and the trophy, and they literally both look at me and they're like, "Your turn." I'm like, I said that.
Yeah.
And then we FaceTime the kids because they were super excited.
And you did it. You completed. What surprised you most about transitioning from being a fit mom and doing HIIT workouts to being a bodybuilding competitor on stage?
Man, it was a journey. So I started in May working. So I like stopped doing HIIT workout. It was very odd. Stopped that.
Odd to stop?
Well, it was. I had done that. That's all I had ever done. And I loved it, because HIIT workout, I show up, there's a whiteboard or like a chalkboard or like a TV with like the workout. So it's mindless. I don't have to think about it. The only thing I'm thinking about is like, listen to cool music and doing my reps. So now it went to like, now I'm working out with people like Jeffrey and Jess. We're not wearing headphones. There's weird divorced dad rock, which is a genre now, at this grungy gym, which I love. Okay, like I love, but just very different, right? Like my other gym was kind of like bougie looking. They gave you like a warm cold towel at the end. I mean, like it's nice, it's clean. To now I'm like sitting on equipment that other people are sweating on.
Yeah, dudes. And divorced dads.
And divorced dads, and it's divorced dad rock like Creed, and it's just I'm like, okay, what's happening? And so Jess is like, so we need to grow your glutes, and so I'm like, okay, so I'm just like I'll never forget. I'm like on this glute kickback machine, which I hate. The glute kickback machine.
So that's interesting. So it wasn't just doing the exercise and kind of do it. Now it was somebody looking at you saying, "Okay, these are the parts."
So now I'm like,
need to grow. Like, whoa,
yeah.
Okay,
now I'm like taking a bikini and like sending photos to this person, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great," But I literally had this moment to myself in the gym. They were overdoing like chest workouts, and I'm like doing this glute kickback, and I'm like, "This is not for me. This feels like Groundhog Day." I feel like I'm showing up at this gym and I'm doing the same pieces of equipment, listening to the same Creed divorced dad rock. And it is every day. This is boring, you know? So I am one that like speaks reality, right? And so I'm like telling I'm like, y'all, this is boring. Like, this is what you do every day. And like, and so then Jess just really kind of like coaches through like, it does until you start to see progress. Like once you start to do the same exercises, you're going to see your muscles actually grow and you're going to see improvement instead of just going to the gym and being like, do these exercises and then come this week and then do these and then do these. That sounds fun, but you're not working your muscles to get improvement. And so after I started doing progress photos for a few weeks, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting stronger and my body is changing.
So I often hear, even my wife has said, like, I don't want to, through the years we've done different fitness routines and workouts, but one of the things, and I hear a lot of women say this is, I don't want to get big and bulky, or I don't want to get So from your perspective, was that?
I want to give you my perspective on that.
Well, once you do, tell me, Lauren. I want to hear though, from you as a woman what you think about that and how you negotiated and navigated that, and was that weird? Was it exciting? But go ahead, Jeff.
So, and Lauren will speak to this too, but it is so hard to purposely put on size and muscle that no woman or man who's not physically trying everything in their power to do so is going to accidentally get too bulky. Like I hear it so many times from women clients of like
misconception though.
Yes, right? It's like, if I lift heavy, if I lift weights, I'm gonna get masculine looking. It's like, no, you won't. Like it is
right, but
I
think it's a common misconception.
It is a very.
Did you find yourself with that?
So I did it probably because I was more educated on muscle definition and how that works. I was actually working to put on muscle. But that is that is a common. I mean, I'm having that conversation with our clients daily. But here's the thing: it's just a change in conversation. Because I bet if we ask Morgan or any of the women in the world, okay, you say you don't want to look bulky or muscular, but do you want to look toned? Yeah, they want to look toned. That is being toned. Right, exactly. Tone, the only way, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to bulk, or I'm like Jeffrey said. Listen, I'm trying to grow my glutes. It is hard. Like it is very hard. It is very purposeful.
It's not so much that's going to happen from working
out. It is not.
It doesn't happen.
But I like
accident.
to talk about it and understand, because I think so. We on this podcast, the Vitality Code, we're looking at ways to optimize human health and performance through the spectrum of aging, and just be the better version of yourself. And what are those pillars of vitality? And clearly, resistance training and muscular development on multiple levels is from a mind-body connection, from a signaling pathway, on and on. So for women I'm kind of curious about your journey and how women can take what you've gone through and maybe overcome some of those misconceptions that tend to be roadblocks.
Yes. Muscular development is the key to longevity. Like it's seriously the key to longevity. Feminine? I feel way more feminine. I feel, but right, also I feel toned. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, because I can look back. I Instagrammed and videoed every single day at the gym. I still do now. It's a part of my really big presence on social media, and I've had a lot of women following me, like seeing my journey. And I can go back to the day. I could literally go back today and look at what I did last year doing my HIIT workout. I looked fit, but I was a box.
Yeah, I think you look. I was gonna say I think because you guys are both very transparent on social media, which I love. And I was gonna say I saw recently some of your old photos, and then I think you do look more feminine.
Yes,
I mean,
because what I was doing endless cardio, which is what most women want to do. They think endless cardio to lose fat, and then they think I just want to look toned, so I'm just gonna do these HIIT workouts, which keeps them in a constant higher cortisol state and inflammation, not allowing their body to drop body fat. But when we can increase muscle mass, that is going to allow your body to burn fat for longer. So way after your workout, you still need to do some sort of increasing your steps or some sort of cardio. It does not have to be intense. Like I literally only walk for my cardio. But what happens is when you build the muscle and you lose the fat, guess what? You tone. But if you don't have the muscular atrophy, like you don't have atrophy is the wrong word, hypertrophy, like where you build the muscle, if you lean down and get rid of body fat, you're just going to look like a box, a skeleton. That's not what women want to look like. And then how to make your waist look smaller, you got to build your muscle in your shoulders to make your waist look smaller.
And I agree that adding this muscle, changing your silhouette and your shape, actually, for instance, slightly broader shoulders or more muscular definition tends to give you an overall aesthetic of a smaller waist. And there's these, and I agree. And like I said, you guys are very transparent with your transformation and what you go through on a day-to-day basis and over the course of this timeline. And I agree. I think when you look back, it was boxy. You had this kind of boxy look. Not that it was bad, but then now it's actually more feminine. But what do you? What are some of the other benefits of having more muscle? I mean, do you raise your basal metabolic rate? I mean, do you have to eat less food, more food, or what?
Yeah. So that's the other thing that I learned was that the more muscle mass I put on, and obviously, like I am preparing for bikini stage. So the amount of muscle that I may want to put on versus like, I don't want to say like your average woman or someone who just, like isn't looking to step on stage I'm obviously trying to put on more muscle tone than somebody that is not trying to get to the stage. But I think if most women were to show me a physique show me someone that you actually want to aspire to look like, most of the time that is somebody who is doing a bodybuilding type weightlifting training. It's not the HIIT workouts. They don't realize it. So what I realized, the more muscle mass that I put on, the more I can actually eat. Because my body actually burns through those calories. Muscle actually burns the calories in your body much more efficiently. So for the longest time, and most women when they come to us with coaching, which we're going to get into, but they come to us and they are in such a severe calorie deficit. They are way overdoing cardio. They are not weightlifting because they don't want to get bulky, even though they want to look toned. And so they're doing all the wrong things to be able to put on muscle mass, to be able to eat more, to be able to look toned. You sleep better. Like I sleep so much better.
That's one I've noticed too. A huge difference in sleep.
Yeah, a huge difference in sleep. Like sex is better. Like I feel like I'm able
look better naked.
You look better naked.
Fair enough.
You show up so much more confidently, and you're stronger. Like I also see, a lot of times, like burpees and things like that. Like those are great things. Like it is so good to have like some functional fitness too. But also like lifting weights, like you have to carry groceries inside.
Well, that's really true, Lauren. And so if you think about aging and, in the trauma surgeon hat that I wear and wore for a lot of years, you see people come in with, so the number one way in which an older person, maybe 55 or greater, certainly 65 or greater, will injure themselves, so will sustain a traumatic injury, will be a fall, right? So, and then you can directly correlate those to, now there can be syncopal and then mechanical falls, but certainly mechanical falls, syncopal is a little bit different. Half of those are cardiovascular, and then the other can be all kinds of other etiology, pathology, but these mechanical falls directly relate to there's fragility fractures, of course, osteoporosis, which can be diet-related and hormone-related, but a lot of it is muscle wasting and sarcopenia of aging, and it's horrendous. And you can literally look in the data and correlate people's morbidity and mortality in a longitudinal fashion to their grip strength. They're literally their grip strength. And one of the cool things that we discussed in an earlier podcast was even if you don't have, well, certainly if you don't have sarcopenia, but even maintaining your muscle mass, your power decreases logarithmically more than does your muscle mass, in age-related groups and sex-related groups. It's very interesting. So, but if you can maintain those, you can end up with a better functional outcome and less mortality and morbidity. And so it just highlights the importance of what you're saying. You're saying, I noticed this as a 30-some-odd-year-old woman, and I'm saying yes, and I can see that over the span of somebody's lifetime as a physician into their later years, it totally is a game changer. So
I can see it. So I have kind of a unique history. So I, for the last 10 years, have worked as a nurse in a home health setting. So I see clinically, I mean, that's all we see
Right.
is patients that are no longer able to leave their house because of their disease state. And most of our patients, although they have diabetes and CHF, they have a lot of disease processes that are chronic. The number one thing that holds them back from getting out of their house is because they don't have muscles.
Right.
They have muscle atrophy. They have not taken
Wasting,
care. They are
sarcopenia,
wasting.
yeah.
And so now
Deconditioned. I mean,
when we think about doing squats in the gym and leg day and how we hate leg day, but squatting is important to get up and off out of a chair
It's
and off the
incredible.
couch.
Right.
And arm strength is so important to be able to push ourselves out of a chair. Or if we do, like have the muscle strength and movement and agility to be able to kind of like catch ourselves from a fall. And like I said, like, lifting weights, we've got to be able to get groceries for our lifetime out of the car.
Right.
We have to be able to pick up our children. We have to be able to bend down doing RDLs, right? Like RDL movement
know,
seems so
exactly.
silly.
Right.
That is so important to be able to pick something heavy up and have those muscles. Muscle improvement and muscle building is so important for longevity.
Absolutely.
Well, too, if you think about it, there's pros and cons to living in America, right? We have such a luxury of comfort that other countries don't experience. And I think one thing that's very interesting, if you study other cultures, most people, their bed in other countries is on the floor. And what does that do? It requires them to get out of a low state from off the ground as they age.
Yeah.
Well, what do we do in America? We just continuously prop our beds up.
We
They
get hospital
higher,
beds that can like
and they make it easier.
Or the
so that we
what's
can
the
eat in
what's
bed.
this? We the sleep number
Sleep
bed.
number, yeah.
We do too, yeah,
it's
we do
like
too.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
But it makes it easier to get less functionally fit. So like in other countries, you might have an 80-year-old woman who every day gets up from basically like
or
6
eating
inches
on the ground, like
right.
in a lot of Asian cultures,
They're so low to the ground,
Mhm.
and they can stand up without using their hands. Like
I
I
know.
think that there's somebody talks about it, but like a test is like, can you sit in
Probably
a chair
TikTok.
and stand up without using anything? Like, can
Yeah.
you physically move your body without?
Oh, for
using
sure.
your
Physical
hands?
therapists have definitely.
Yeah, that's something that we do with home health. Like,
yeah. And so it's so relatable going back to squats and RDLs and like certain movements that a lot of times we think, like I don't need to do this unless I want to be a bodybuilder. It's like, no, this is the key to longevity.
Well, and so honestly, that's what I love so much about your story is that you won the qualifier. Lauren now gets in the mix because she has to make good on the bet. she gets on stage and competes, which is absolutely phenomenal. That you did it
And crushed it.
and crushed it. Turns out she's a genetic freak. Got ridiculous traps, shoulders,
Her
delts,
delts.
like
Call her the
triceps.
delt
I
mommy.
mean, like no offense, but
Better genetics than me. No doubt.
At least in those areas, yeah. But I mean, she's amazing. So but not discounting. I mean, your journey is absolutely incredible. And then the championship comes up,
Yep.
and it was, can I sustain this? Can I wow the judges once more?
we took the whole family out, the kids too.
Yeah. And the championship was a much different feel than Tampa. The championship was everyone who had done the other qualifying shows. So the best of every show basically came together to compete again. So
It's like winning the divisional, and then
Yes.
you go to the Super Bowl. Winning
Yeah.
the,
This was the Super Bowl of this.
Yeah, winning the ACC championship, and now you're in the NCAA or whatever. I mean,
Right.
Yes.
I would assume it. I don't know, but does it feel like, okay, can I do this again?
Yes, we
At a higher
definitely-
level now.
it was definitely that feeling. And there was definitely like the competition was way harder.
Yeah.
And just the nerves and like, yes.
I even
can
had to
do it
like
again?
before, so we went for prejudging and then finals, and he had a private conversation with me that was like, I just need everyone to know, like, yes, it is okay that I didn't win, like, but also like I'm gonna have my moment. So I went and had this private conversation with each of our family members, like,
Wait, it's okay that I didn't.
No,
win.
Well,
so saying like,
this is-
hey,
If I
if
didn't
I
Yes.
don't win, like it's okay. It's not the end of
Right.
the world. Like this doesn't define who
So
I am.
Like, we just
you were
had
telling
this-
them that.
So I told Lauren because I hate to lose. Like I hate it more than anything, more than I like to win.
the competition was
So,
really
but
stiff.
you were more worried about everybody else.
Well, I just wanted
That's
everybody.
interesting.
I
That's
wanted
pretty cool.
everyone to know that like, hey, if I don't win,
Don't freak out.
and that's okay, right? Like
Right.
my life is not defined by one
Yes.
moment.
Good for
But
you.
in
Yeah.
the same sense, I'm going to be very
just
upset
needs a
and
moment.
angry, and
Yeah.
I don't need anyone being like, "It's okay that you didn't win."
yeah.
I need you just to give me my space
Nice,
and let
yeah.
me work through it.
But I just say that to say, like, we were going through real emotions of, I don't know if you're going to win. Like, there's a lot of stiff competition. Like, this is hard. Like, it was a very victorious moment when it happened.
I think people, and I'm glad you say that, and I'm glad you say it here on our podcast. But because honestly, I have to say, and I almost feel a little embarrassed to say this, but I think that the Jensens that I know, I mean, just so everybody knows, and we'll talk about what they've parlayed their success into, which is phenomenal on a massive scale and helping people in the community, which I love. It's just, when you can do that, it's just so great. But we've asked them to be brand ambassadors for Body Revolution. Is it Christian Guzman?
Yeah.
Christian, this is not a clothing line. This is this is for a local wellness practice, but they're local celebrities up on the billboard now. But I think I just kind of forget that. I'm just like, I mean, it's sad to say, but I think athletes get taken for granted, or I just always. But you forget, it's people are rewarded for in public what.
Yes.
They're rewarded in public for the struggles they go through in private.
Yes.
And I'm glad you're saying that, because we forget that. And it's like, oh yeah, Jeff did that. No, man, this was really, I mean, like, clearly you can see the pictures, that part's hard, and losing the weight. And then we all know that, but having to face those, I don't know, you know, those dark inner self-confidence issues that could arise, like, am I good enough? Am I going to do this? And, you know, like prepping the family, like, if I don't win, I mean, that's tough, man. Yeah. And pushing through anyway.
We also had a conversation with our kids like you're talking, mommy and daddy are on prep since August. This is October now. Yeah. We've been on prep. It's been very hard.
Yeah,
and
what's
they've
it like for
seen,
them? Do they like, hey,
we did a lot of family walks. I mean, but Jeffrey's always been a good vision caster. And so we painted the picture for them. And we said, you're going to get to go to Texas. We're going to go to the show. Your grandparents are going to come. So my parents and his parents came, because they came to support both of us, but also to help us with our boys, which we so grateful. But so we had said to the kids, when daddy wins, I mean, we're envisioning this, but also reminding ourselves of what we're doing. So we're showing them that, like, hey, hard work takes doing to get somewhere. You've got to do the things every single day, right? So they're there for the whole journey as well. And we said every single day, when daddy wins, he will bring you up on stage. Mm. We painted this vision for them. So here we are. We're getting to the show.
So you just assumed that.
Oh, yeah. For like a good 12 weeks, it was like, hey, when I win, you're going to come on stage. And so,
Let me stop you for a second. I just want to know something. You guys are big fans of each other, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So you're big. That's really cool. I'm noticing this. And so if you're not married out there and you're thinking about getting married, ask yourself, am I this person's biggest fan, or are they mine? I don't know. That's a big thing.
Definitely your biggest cheerleader, and you are definitely my biggest fan for sure.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's clear. Yeah. Okay, so when daddy wins, we're gonna bring you up there, blah blah blah. So they just assumed, I guess they kind of assumed you were gonna win.
For sure. And obviously, like, you know, you got to see it in your mind before it can become a reality. I'm a true believer in that. Like, if you can paint a vision for yourself, like, that's why vision boards, like all that kind of stuff that seems kind of hocus pocus, it is true, because what you focus on grows.
Right. But yet you weren't so out of touch with reality.
Exactly.
But,
that's why I share that piece too.
Right. So coming back to it.
Balance that, though.
So
because sometimes it feels like you watch IG scroll. I gotta see it to believe it to achieve it. And I do believe it. I totally, Napoleon Hill, etc.
Yes.
I totally believe in that stuff. But sometimes it almost feels fake. But you like, I don't want to be I kind of get in this space where I feel like, am I being goofy? Like, maybe I should paint this with some realism.
So
did you go through that? And
I think you have to have the confidence. I think going into anything, if you don't have 100% confidence in yourself, if you don't truly believe that it can happen, it probably won't happen. So you have to have that, but then you also have to be able to handle if it doesn't.
Okay.
And so I think that's where I was. Like, I painted this vision for the kids and for Lauren, and for, like, I mean, even thinking about all of 2023, like, even with 212, like, there was a lot of things that I put on the back burner that my brother either picked up the slack, or, you know, other people stepped up, because I was so hardcore on this journey and, like, trying to win and doing all these things. Like, being on prep definitely takes a toll on your mental
So you're
state.
giving props to your team.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't have done it without the team that we have.
No, for sure.
So like, but you also have to paint the vision of like, hey, it's going to be worth it. But then, yeah, in the final moments, you also have to be able to like acknowledge, hey, if it doesn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen, I'm okay with that, and we're going to move on and get better from it. So I think you have to have a balance of like extreme belief in yourself, where you know you can do it, but at the end of the day, you also have to realize that like there's certain things in life that there's just a little bit of luck involved. Like there's just a little bit of circumstance involved, and at the end of the day, you don't control everything, but you control how you respond to everything. And so that's why, like leading up to the show, like I had that conversation of like, hey, I feel very confident in what we've done and the work that we've put in, but if for some reason it's not my time and I don't win, I just need everybody to know that I'm good, but I'm going to need a moment.
You do need a little
to
bit
process
of luck.
it.
You do need a little luck, but I've heard a lot of people say this. My dad used to talk about it because he heard Wesley Snipes. Well, that's a throwback back in an interview, but everybody says very similar things. That it's just odd how the more prepared you are, the luckier you get somehow.
Oh,
isn't that funny?
1,000%.
Okay, so you're preparing everybody.
Yeah. And you can even see it on the YouTube videos. Like I'm having like conversations with the camera, and you can tell there's like a lot of inner struggle of like, hey, like I feel good, but I also don't feel good. Like
who's filming this stuff, by the way? Like that specific.
Yeah, me. Like me talking to the camera.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so we go through the championship day. Very, very cool experience. We do prejudging. We don't learn anything from prejudging. Everybody looks good. Everyone feels confident. I'm sure everyone's having the same conversations in their hotel rooms, like, oh, we're going to win. And we come back for finals, and there was 10 people. So like the top 10 people from around the world who won transformation were competing against each other. And they decide that they're going to do in order. They're going to call out 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and like announce it that way. And when they get to the top 3, they're going to stop. And so we literally all line up on stage, and they start calling out in 10th place.
Well, how many were lined up there?
So it was 10 total.
Oh, so you knew
top 10.
So the lowest you get was 10.
Right, but that's like
so
that's last. So.
No, I know, but I'm just saying. So as each person goes by, okay, I'm higher than 10.
Yeah.
Correct.
Higher than 9.
But here's the whole thing. Just in my mind, right? I am a little biased, but like I'm like I know he's top 3. But the top 3, it's gonna be he has. I don't know if he's gonna win top 3, but I know it's top 3. So it's like I know he's top 3. Let's just get top 3. But then he gets top 3, and I'm like I don't know where he's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like he could be third,
but
second,
it's
or
still
first.
like such a nerve wracking. Like you're on stage, and you're like, please don't call my name. Please don't call my name.
Yes, I
Please.
mean for 10
so,
times,
and in third
9
place,
times.
You know,
Yeah.
So it gets to the top 3, and it's me and 2 other guys, and it's the 2 guys that the whole time I've been like, I'm worried about those 2 guys.
Before getting to the show, you know who's competing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're comparing, and you're like.
And they
So when they call number 3, were you like, oh my god, the needle,
So-
the pins and needles must go just.
Oh, yeah.
what they ended up doing was they took the top 3 and they put us over to the side, and then they replayed our videos, so like our story, and they said we want the audience to help us decide and cheer, which was kind of like they already knew who was going to win, and they ended up playing the videos 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. So
really?
they played my video last. Which after watching how they did it, and then we watched the girls, like we knew who was going to win because they did the same thing.
The same thing.
But they played the videos, of course, like the audience cheered for everybody. But then, they lined us up and they called the top 3. And when 3rd place was called, it wasn't me. I was like, all right, it's either top 2, but if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
If you come in second, it's first loser.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to the top 2, and at that moment, I literally just blacked out. Like I was like, all right, just please don't. Say my name. And so they called the other guy at 2nd place. And then that's when it's probably the first time I've ever got like choked up, or like I'm not a very emotional person, but like it definitely like choked me up. And then I won. And so the boys did not come on stage.
So that
it was such
was
a
just
quick turnaround.
That was for the entire year. Those people that competed in his division, which was transformation, that he won the transformation division. So that's the first one of the day.
Yep.
So then now they took each division, so all the men's division, all the women's division. So he did transformation. There's men's physique, classic bodybuilding.
You won all the divisions?
So then they compared all of them. They were going to
So
choose male
first
and
you
female.
won a divisional type thing.
Yes.
Then at the championship you won the transformation.
Same day.
So
same
same
day.
day.
Then on top, I mean, but before you had won like some kind of divisional type thing, right?
So I won Tampa. So that was
That's what I meant,
that was
like,
qualifier.
yeah,
And
the
then I
qualifier.
won the championship for transformation. And then they took there was 4 categories: transformation, men's physique, classic physique, bodybuilding. So then the 4
And you won
winners,
overall?
Yeah, the 4 winners.
Oh, I don't think I
Then
ever
we
realized
brought
that.
us out on stage,
Jeez.
and they had to
And
go.
these
between,
people have crazy. Anton is
one
one
of
of
them's the
Yeah.
youngest pro.
the youngest
in
pro
history,
in history right now.
for
Oh,
for
wow.
classic bodybuilding. But anyways, this was not based on your physique.
Yeah.
The final, the overall champion was based on your story and how well you would represent the brand.
Yes.
And so I ended up winning that, and that was obviously crazy. That's the kids rushed on stage.
But so in that, but I just want to say in that moment, so this is the moment that we painted the picture for the kids for so long. Okay. So he's on stage. I don't know if he's going to get on stage or not. Like I don't know if he's going to win. That's
is this it right
that's
here?
actually from Tampa. So that was his Tampa show.
Pull
You
up,
find the
producer Nick.
picture of
See-
the kids.
Yeah, find that. But also, is there a YouTube,
you
like
can-
a little short or a little video we can see? Of
Yeah.
you, or is there? Or
yeah.
I mean, Christians. So I'm literally standing on the side of the stage with the kids because now it's down to we don't know, and they literally yell Jeffrey's, like they announce Jeffrey's name, and I look down because I'm looking at stage. I look down. The kids have rushed the stage. There they are to the right at the top. They have rushed the stage. Oh, it's you gotta like log in or something. But yes, and I had them in these muscle shirts. And so it was literally they rushed the stage and immediately began bodybuilding poses. And so I look over and the DJ says, "So do you want to get on stage too?" So I'm like, "Oh yeah, like let's just get." And so we like have this like family photo.
That's so cool.
And now it's so cool. So we were just in Texas last week and people were like, "Oh my gosh, how are your kids?" Like that was such a sweetest moment when your kids rush the stage.
That is cool.
But we literally walked off stage. So Jeffrey had to take some more pictures. And Levi, my oldest, he's shaking. And he says to me, "Oh my gosh, I'm shaking. That was the coolest moment ever."
Wow.
And I think that's when it like all hit me because this was the
Hank was
day
probably
after.
eating some
Yeah, he
snacks.
was probably getting some snacks, yeah.
He was
Which
eating
is funny
salmon.
because Hank is actually our one that like wants to be a bodybuilder. He likes to eat bodybuilder meals and all
Does
things.
he?
But
That's funny.
it was in that moment that I just realized we just showed our kids what it means to do what you say you're going to do. And how if you put in hard work, you get rewarded. I don't mean, it's like it.
You feeling a little emotional right now?
It was very emotional. I feel like it took a long time to like.
Was that the real win?
Oh, that was a major win. I mean, I
Or
feel like
one of the real wins, you know?
there were multiple conversations in our prep where we just were like, because there were so many things like, the kids wanted us here, try this candy, have this pizza, do this thing.
Mhm.
And we were like, no, like we're doing this, like, we're doing bodybuilding. Let's go on this family walk. And we said multiple times, what do we hope this teaches to our kids? Like what do we hope they gain from this? And that was it. We literally wanted them to just see, like, do what you say you're going to do and
say it. Do what you're going to say you do. And,
yeah. And then look what
Conor McGregor
happens
click.
when you do something.
Yeah.
Look at that, man.
But such a cool moment. And that kind of transpired.
Gosh, it looks so different than when you, man, unreal.
That literally like this, when we say this changed our, like this literally launched everything
Juicy.
for us.
Look how juicy and pumped he is.
Look at his face.
Had death
So
face.
different, yeah.
But yeah, so this is when I
Yeah,
said
scroll
earlier.
to right. Is it right here where the kids join on the stage? Definitely scroll to. I think it's at the end, like kind of towards the end. Yeah, you have to see the kids rush. Okay, so like right here, he's like asking. He's like, "So,
Hey, give us
can
some
they come on
sound.
the stage?"
Oh, dude, look at how big those guys are. They're up there with
Right?
you. Holy crap.
Like I said, this was not based on
This was
physique.
more
'cause
of, like-
clearly I don't have the best physique on stage, but it was more based on overall like story, who would represent the brand the best.
So look, you ready? Here come the kids.
Guzman's a pretty big dude.
He was
He
in
was
his
pretty big right
full
there.
He's a pretty swole
off
stuff.
season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, there's the
Yeah,
kids.
Hank. The Hankinator.
Look.
Ellie, that's so cool.
So then I'm like, wait a
Levi's already got
minute.
into the little-
I'm like, I think I better get into this.
That's
And then
so
Christian
awesome.
said, "Man, this is a moment right here. We can put this on YouTube."
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, it was a very cool moment.
But yeah, that was kind of like the catalyst to like everything life changing that I talked about earlier, because that obviously winning that show was a crazy experience, but with winning that show came a full sponsorship from Alpha Elite Athletics, which 2 years earlier I started buying their clothes, and Lauren jokingly said, like, you probably need to figure out
They're
a way
great
to
clothes. I got
get
my,
sponsored.
I got my
Yeah.
Alpha Elite shirt on.
Fantastic.
They are.
Love it. And I love my I don't know.
You got your sweatpants,
Oh, they're
your
dude,
joggers.
They're the best.
They are the best. Like
Yeah.
they are, and I for whatever reason I love joggers and sweatpants. I don't know, I just love them, and they are literally. I have Adidas.
It's very high
Under Armour.
quality.
What's that?
They're very high quality.
Yeah, it's super good.
Yeah.
Christian, good product, love it. And it was Jeff that turned me on to the brand, so he's doing his job.
So yeah, so from that launched crazy.
What's that?
So from that kind of like launched our life and kind of what we're doing now.
Yeah. So tell me. So there's still 212 Meal Prep, the number one meal service
in the
company
Carolinas.
in the Carolinas, and I always say, honestly,
In the world.
It is in the world.
in
we
my
just don't
known
ship.
world, it is.
Yeah.
And like
Same.
I always feel so self-conscious when I talk to people in the clinic about it, because I'm like, I know these people are going to think I'm getting kickbacks, because I'm so like, I rave about it. But in all honesty, and somebody even messaged me on Facebook Messenger, was like, dude, how do you like those 212 meal preps? I've tried this, I've tried that. I was like, me too. I've tried, sorry if you're listening to this, but Factor and all these other meal preps, and they're not terrible, but they're just meh, and like, I just couldn't stick with them. And 212 is phenomenal, guys. I mean, I know I've posted videos before, and it must sound like cheesy, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
We don't
You're
pay
just
him.
trying to, they don't pay me.
Sorry.
But dude, I wish they would, but no, just kidding. But they like, seriously, the food it's insane. Okay, so first of all, it's awesome. Number next is that it's whole foods.
Yep.
which
Yes.
And it's, so you're eating chicken, you're eating green or pea pods. I had honey sriracha lime chicken
Oh,
last
honey
night.
sriracha chicken.
So you're not
Fire.
eating any processed food, which is another whole health benefit into itself. And I have tested the food with continuous glucose monitoring, and it was the only thing besides maybe protein shakes, which I also used your recommendation of some bum protein,
Yeah.
sea bum
Yeah.
protein, and
Raw
everything.
nutrition.
Yeah, that didn't give me any glucose spikes, leveled me out, and I feel so like full, but I don't feel sluggish. I feel
Satiated,
so
but you don't
but-
feel weighed down.
Yes, and kudos to you, Chef Jeff. It is, because I think even after talking to you, I learned even more. It's so hard. The margins are razor thin in food industry anyway. It must be a meal prep, and then to make them taste good for a wide range of meals and a wide range of palates that you encounter, it must be so incredibly difficult.
And
you
then
guys-
to make them macro friendly.
and make them, it's awesome. But you parlayed that into a nutrition and fitness coaching
We honestly had
company, I guess.
prepping together changed a lot of our lives, like we've talked about before. Like, it definitely like 10x'd our marriage. We did something hard. It was one of the coolest things we've ever done together. Like, I can't wait to do it again.
Would you recommend that couples?
I don't recommend that most couples do it. Actually, most people, if you look at that, most people will say, like, don't do a prep together. It's hard. Like, you need the other person to be okay. Like, no, we made it work.
What about taking on something together that's hard in general?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that it's because you are doing something disciplined to better yourself every day. It makes you a better person.
But
Why
would
not
you
do it together?
But it 10x your relationship too.
Yes.
Do you think your relationship would be where it is today if you had not done that? Like, it was good. I'm not
We
saying it
still
wasn't
had a
good,
great relationship.
But it is. But because
Because he had already done 75 hard and had a large weight loss, and he did a bodybuilding show, so he was doing hard things. I was doing hard things too. I was working out, but this pushed me to my best. More muscle mass, and just kind of like, I got to achieve something. So I obviously competed the day before him and had this entire moment at 35 of like, I'm like on stage, I like black out. I'm like, here I am in this tiny skimpy bikini. And
for all the world to
like,
see.
I did the thing.
Yeah.
And I am not like overly girly. Like I'm not like a pageant girl. I never was super like
You're an athlete in high school.
I played golf
Yeah.
in high school. Okay. True story. Played golf.
Athlete,
I
yeah.
surfed. I skateboarded. Like
Oh, wow,
I was
really?
very
Oh, really?
tomboy, I
Yeah.
guess, if you would kind of say. I'm a boy mom. Like
Right.
I'm kind of just so to get on stage in a what I like to call in a beauty pageant for people that go to the gym. That is what bodybuilding is. Essentially, it was a lot, but I literally, the feelings that I gained of self-confidence of doing what I said I was going to do, but accomplishing that at 35 and knowing all the things I had to do.
After 2 kids, mind you.
After 2 children, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And now it gave me this like, man, I can do whatever I want to do. My life is not over at 35. Who cares if I'm closer to 40 than I am 30?
Okay,
like,
so
who cares?
Producer Nick, that needs to be a clip because people out there, you need to realize that's I don't care what these people tell you, but you will learn that if you decide to coach with them. I'm not plugging it. I just want people to know having a coach in your corner, getting your nutritional discipline and your exercise discipline right will optimize your health, will make you the best version of yourself, and will make your life the way you want it to be. If your life is not the way you want it to be, one of the pillars and foundational things that you can do to make it the way you want it to be is listen to their story, is to change those. I mean,
1,000%.
Agree or disagree?
I totally agree. And like you asked, would our marriage be good? Yeah, it would have been great. We already had a great marriage. We say this all the time. We are not looking to be, good marriage. Okay. Right. We want to like be excellent at everything, every single aspect, finances, marriage, relationships, health. Like we don't just want like an okay life. Yeah. We're just making it.
You only live once, right?
Why not make it exceptional? We want it to be exceptional. And that's how I feel about our clients. Like I no longer want my clients to have hopes and dreams of becoming their best self.
Right.
I want them to experience and achieve it.
Right. Right.
And too many people, I think, they're like you just said, like life isn't over at 35, 40, 50, 60. Like most of us with modern medicine, with all of the research that's been done, with everything that people like most of us are going to live to 100, 110, 120. Right. So at 60, you're halfway there. Like that's mind-boggling.
That's almost a problem in a sense if you don't
take action now,
right? Because hey, you're gonna live. I mean, unless you off yourself, which is a terrible. I mean, but I mean, you're gonna live there. Are you gonna live in a way that's enjoyable and as you're functional, or are you gonna just exist? You know.
And I think that's what we're striving so hard to do now is help people change that mindset, catch it before it's quote unquote too late, and start living the lifestyle they want to live. Because a lot of our clients are in their 50s, but it's like you could have another good 40 years of like great life if you play your cards right, if you do the things, if you exercise, if you eat right, if you build muscle mass, if you take action steps now. But so many people, like, they'll just end up being like, I'm too old to make a change, or I'm like, who in their right mind at 35 is like, I'm going to start a career in bodybuilding? Right. Like, that's when most bodybuilders peak, are in their early to mid 30s. Like, that's when you see a lot of the guys on the Olympia stage who are like, have been doing it for 10 years. But why not start now? Like,
and do it for 10 weeks and then show up on stage.
So, you guys are growing your business and I mean, I refer people as much as I can because here's something that to address your comment earlier, Lauren, there is this massive just fountain of information and misinformation coming from all directions, social media and so many other different sources. We're getting to this stage, and Seth Godin talks about it in this concept of tribes. And I heard Cody Sanchez on Instagram talk about in the niches are the riches, and things like that. And then I heard you talk about it in a clip recently about why would you, if you want to achieve something in your life, go to people who have achieved that. Why would you listen to people who have not achieved something about the thing? And so my whole point in that is there's such a wealth of information. get with somebody who does it in a way that is excellent, does it every day, and knows what they're talking about, and avail yourself of coaches, mentors, and the information they have, because that's where you'll make the most ground and get the most efficiency and kind of bang for your buck, so to speak. People ask me all the time in the clinic about diet, and I just tell them, okay, I can tell you, and I can give you some science and that kind of thing, but I tell you, the people that live it on a day-to-day basis are my good friends Lauren and Jeff Jensen. Once you get with them,
and we love that.
Yeah, no.
We say if you need your lab work checked or you need some Botox, please go see
Body
Body Revolution.
That's the key is to get these people around you in your life that are experts in whatever it is that you're looking for, and you can do that now. And so in that line, let me ask you some questions. What are some of the most common misconceptions in your work as coaches, mentors, fitness coaching, nutritional coaching, macros coaching? What are some of the most common misconceptions about dieting that you encounter, and how do you address them?
I think a couple things. I think most of the time, and I've even seen it a lot with men recently, most people are under eating. They've crushed their metabolism.
Yeah.
They eat like the minimum. They don't even really eat the minimum amount of protein needed. Like, so those are two big things. They're not enough caloric intake, very, very low protein intake.
Is that an educational thing, or just
I think it's
not being purposeful?
I think it's an educational thing, because I don't think people realize what they need to be eating, but I also think it's a society thing. I think it's fast food culture. I think it's just so many people are so busy that they're just grabbing stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you really start to break down even the quote unquote like healthier options at restaurants, mm-hmm. like, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, certain things like that, unless you're very purposeful when you go to those restaurants and you know how to read labels and you know what you're looking for, most of the time you're going to fall really, really short on your goals as far as protein goes. Mm-hmm. So I think those are two really big things. Mostly we'd always seen it kind of with women under eating, but now a lot of my clients who are males, I see that too.
Same reasons or different
just
reasons?
Busy lifestyles, not knowing. A lot of people, there's so much information on the internet. Do I fast? Do I not fast? Do I go carnivore? Do I go keto?
No.
Do I not eat vegetables? Is fruit going to make me fat? Like, there's so many different things out there that people are just overwhelmed and confused. And then the other big thing that I see is people thinking that they're going to start doing something and they're going to do it for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 months, and they're going to have these like life-changing results. And it's like, you didn't get 60 pounds overweight in 3 weeks. Like, right. It took you years to get right. 60 pounds overweight. Right. So the same process applies with fitness and nutrition. And I always jokingly with our clients use like business to relate back to your fitness journey. And I'll use 212 as an example. 212 this May will be 7 years old, and the first 5 years were like just a full-blown grind. Like, we weren't making any money.
5 years, guys.
Yeah, no money. Like, Jason and I like barely brought home a salary. Like, by every measurable standard in the public eye, like, we were not successful.
Right.
Well, over the last 2 years, we've made the right steps. We've paid debt off. We've done different things. We've grown. We've built the right teams, the right systems. We've put in the work, in the quiet, right?
Right.
No one sees all the things that happen. Well, in the last 2 years, we quote unquote exploded. Mm-hmm. And now we're able to take home very great salaries. We're very successful. And so a lot of people would look at that and be like, man, overnight success. It's
exactly.
Like,
people say you exploded, but
right.
Like,
all of the years before.
We've been doing the right thing every day for 5 years.
Day out with no
reward.
With no reward.
And so most people, they look at their fitness journey, and they think it's opposite. And they're like, well, man, I've been so good for the last 14 days. How come I don't have a six-pack? Or how come the scale hasn't dropped 5 pounds? And it's like, man, it might take you 6 months of being consistent to really start seeing results. It might take you a year. Like, my journey took, 2 full years of being consistent. Like, not like, hey, I'm going to dabble in it. Like, hardcore, all-in consistency for 2 years to see the results that I've seen.
But Lauren, that being in love with the process, as you were describing earlier, Does that help mitigate some of that?
It does. And that's the conversation that I have to have a lot with my clients and coaching people and just reminding them like we're changing your life. Like, and that's what we talk about. We're like, listen, we're not a quick fix. As a matter of fact, you really don't want a quick fix because that's just going to fix you for a certain amount of time and then you're going to be right back.
There's not much out there that is a quick fix.
There's not. No, you have to have the mental mindset shift because you have to change your life.
Right.
It is changing your life. And so that is a painstakingly sometimes everyday decision to make a decision for your future, not for today. You have to consciously think about I'm doing this because for my future self.
Right.
And it's every single day and falling in love with the process. And then you begin to change your life. And once you change your life, then the results are going to happen. But you want it to be sustainable, and you've got to do it every day.
You've got to change when it comes to fitness, relationships, business. Most people look at them as like a finite game. Like we're going to play Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
And there's a winner at the end of the game. And it's like none of those areas have a finite ending. Every one of those areas is infinite. And so
it's like Simon Sinek. Have you been reading his book, Long and Infinite Games?
I think we've read every book out there.
I've read a lot of his books, but so you have to change your mindset shift to this is an infinite process of always constantly improving and changing. And so if you don't fall in love with the process, you will be in a world of yo-yoing for the rest of your life. Yeah. And that's what I did forever. I just yo-yoed. I would go up and down and up and down. And it wasn't until I realized like, hey, I'm playing a game that has no ending.
Yes.
And the only thing for me to win the game, the only way to win the game is to keep playing the game.
Right.
And so when you can wrap your head around like, hey, the win is I get to continue to play. Like Jason and I, when it comes to business, we joke all the time. Our goal each year for 212 is to keep playing. Our goal is to like stay in business.
Well, so great investors talk about that too. And it's really, I've seen that in mine. Just as an aside, so it happens in all areas of life. It's time in the market, not market timing, or it's just being able to stay in the market long enough, stay invested long enough, and you'll have. I mean, everything in life is like that.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll eventually win if you play by the rules and you do the right things.
Right.
Eventually, you're gonna have success. Right. The problem in business is most people give up.
Yes.
Most businesses fail because you either run out of capital. You run out of bandwidth, you just don't have enough steam in your body to continue to go, or you just give up and quit because you realize it's not for you. Same thing in fitness. Most people give up before there's that picture that's always on Instagram of like the diamond miner, right? And he's like,
you know where that comes
so quick, and then he turns around right before he strikes gold.
From? That story of Acres of Diamonds?
No. Oh, actually, that's from, is that from?
Nightingale?
Earl Nightingale.
Very interesting story. Or there's a story about the guy that was drilling for oil, quit, and then the next people that bought it went like 5 feet more.
Yeah.
I mean, all this time he was 5 feet away from billions.
Crazy.
It's absolutely true.
But that's why you have to fall in love with the process. And I think those, under eating, not enough protein, and then the lack of the desire to fall in love with the journey is the most common misconceptions that we see with clients. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that we try and really instill is not so much wins on progress. Like obviously if you lose some weight or like your pictures look really good, we're going to encourage you and we're happy for that. But the things that we get most amped about is seeing our clients have a mental shift of like, hey, I went out with my husband last night for a date night and I ate off plan. And I realized I don't like that anymore. Right. Like I would rather,
how they made them feel.
I would rather eat my healthy food or, just, hey, I've realized that the scale may not be going down, but I feel stronger and I feel more energy and I'm happier. It's like all those wins when they stack up over time, no matter what, eventually equate to you're going to look better. Yeah. You're going to have a better physique.
Somebody that's having a mindset shift.
Yes.
And you guys know that that's the big big value in this.
Yeah. That's the only thing that matters. At the end of the day, if you don't have that shift, you will eventually backslide. And like you said earlier, you'll eventually go back to your old habits.
Right. Well, okay. So how do you recommend someone start if they want to make a significant change in their diet?
Reach out to us.
Call you guys. Well, maybe talk about that too, and talk about the importance of a coach.
Honestly,
because I find when I say to people, hey, look, 212 meal prep. You can pick it up here at our clinic. It's got the macro. It's got the macros all printed out on the front label for you. Macros. I mean,
Yes.
not everybody knows. Oh, fats, okay, those are macros.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, and you need to know I'm having specific ratios. So, how should someone start?
I think step one is being very in tune with yourself. So I think knowing how you act as a person,
being honest and vulnerable,
and really taking a deep dive and having like an inner session and figuring out like, how do I respond to things? What makes me tick?
Because that'll show you how you respond to food.
No, because that'll show you what you need. And so
that'll show you what you need for food,
for anything. So like for me, I'm a very all in person. If I decide I'm going to do something, I want to go all in. I want to learn as much as I can. And so for me, having a coach that can dump all of that stuff onto me at one time is how I thrive.
He likes a fire hose.
For Lauren, she likes gradual steps. So
I like to have one or two things, and then once I accomplish those and I feel confident with those, then I'm ready for the next thing.
So if you're going to change your diet and you know yourself, I'm going to make small changes, and I'm going to do what's the Japanese art of, small, there's I forget the name of it, but making small changes each day, basically. For you, if I'm going to change my diet, I'm Jeff.
I'm going to change everything.
He's doing everything.
Let me go, balls to the wall.
So for Lauren, if she was like, hey, I want to just start a healthier lifestyle, I might suggest for her, like, all right, how about we start with drinking?
So let me ask you that. So you guys, so since that was the most important thing, and then you went right into if it was Lauren. So when you're coaching somebody, if that's the most important thing, is that where you start with them?
We definitely, yes. That's
how you kind of approach the diet?
Yeah. So if we have somebody that's interested, we're going to be reaching out to them, and we're going to do like a FaceTime call just to get to know them and have like a form that they're going to fill out, and basically ask general questions. And then we're going to get to know them. So everything is individualized. But even for me, talking about like how I was on my fitness journey around the same time that he had started as well. But I was like, I'm not tracking my macros. I'm not doing that. I was very resistant. But I was working out and I was drinking my water. And it was not, I just didn't want to be on my phone and tracking. But now, but it did. It did. But then I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Of course, that's when I saw results. So that's the thing that I think with coaching too is like, that's fine if you don't want the fire hose of all the things at one time. We're going to show you what it takes to get to where you want to go. You're going to kind of determine how quickly you get there or not. And that's fine if you want to do one or two things. Just know that may take the process longer.
Right. Yeah.
But we're there to be able to kind of figure out, like, is this too much? Let's pull back. Let's focus on this, because you know what? Life is crazy. And we understand that there's different personalities.
That's interesting, because I think people get overwhelmed with that. You're looking at this destination, and in between you and the destination is a big gap, right? Or a chasm, a Grand Canyon. And you're like, but a coach, and especially experienced folks who have analyzed this and thought about the best way to do it, can lay that bridge over there and say, this is how you get there. Because I don't know if everybody would sit there and say, okay, I got to think about the person I am. Then once I figure that out, I got to use that to, I mean, that's
but I think about like,
that is great, but I don't think
even for you
intuitive.
Becoming a physician, if somebody would have said, like, you knew you wanted to get there, that was a dream for you, right? If somebody would have given you in a paper format and said, this is everything you have to do and go through to do it, like thinking back on what all you did, you probably, you'd be like, heck no, that's not for me. That's kind of how I feel about my, y'all are weird, but that's kind of how I feel about my fitness journey. I'm like, ooh, I know what all I had to do to get here. Would I do that? I don't know. But thinking about it on a day to day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. Yes, I would do that.
Do you find common themes? Like, I can relate to Jeff's fire hose thing, and I don't know if that's just because we're similar on some other intellectual level, but do you find that men approach it certain ways and women approach it? I mean,
we do.
Not to want to paint
we do
pictures, but
and even in our clients, there's some women that are a fire hose.
Okay.
I mean, we definitely,
but in
you
general,
can see personality
like,
traits.
70% of women are this way, and 70%, or is it all kind of all over the place?
I think it's kind of all over the place. The thing that I've noticed with coaching both men and women are way better listeners.
Way better.
Participators.
They will do what
They're
you
way
ask them to do for
vulnerable.
most of the part.
Way better.
Men are much more stubborn and less willing to be vulnerable or ask for help.
Yeah.
So
have shorter attention spans.
Yeah, the men, I feel like we really have to like pull things out of, where the women are just like voluntarily just dumping everything. But going back to your original question, just like from a practical standpoint, if you don't have access to a coach, or you can't afford a coach yet or whatever, if I was just starting right now, I would say keep it really basic. Increase your water intake.
Right.
A gallon of water a day is a great place to kind of live at. I highly recommend getting like a jug, like something like this.
That's for the normal healthy person if you're not in renal failure or something like that.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Please
if you don't
consult
have
your own physician.
If you don't have a underlying condition where if you had too much water, it would harm you. But for most people, a gallon of water a day, increase your activity level. So go for more walks. Like if you have a lunch break, maybe eat lunch for 20 minutes and then walk for 10 minutes. And then focus on whole foods and protein. So protein being any type of lean meat, chicken, steak, lean ground beef, lean turkey. I mean, you can even have lean deli meats to an extent. Obviously, the sodium content in those are high and it's more processed. But we're never ones to be like, you got to cut things out of your diet. I think everything in moderation. But those would be my like 3 principles would be: increase your water, increase your activity, and increase your protein and whole food consumption. So stay away from processed food, stay away from fast food. Those would be like the most broad, like unspecific things that if you just started focusing on those would help you to start your journey. And then obviously having a coach, knowing how much calories, proteins, carbs, fats you should take in, knowing your resting metabolic rate, like all of that stuff comes with time. And that's where really figuring out what type of personality are you. Do you want it all given to you up front? Do you need that extra accountability? Like, where do you struggle? And for most people, like when we have our coaching calls, most people have a general idea of what they need to do. They just need the accountability. And that seems to be the very consistent thing with people is, hey, like I know I need to eat healthier. I know I need to work out, but I really need someone holding my hand.
Do people know that when they contact you, or is that something they discover? Do they consciously come to you guys wishing for or wanting more accountability, or is it something they discover?
No, it's actually, and I think most people realize that's what they're paying for us with coaching. The thing that I think a lot of times too is that, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, people don't know what macros are. And that's okay to not know what that is. That's very normal. I mean, I'm a nurse. I know you're a very highly trained physician and you know what macros are, but you might not feel comfortable in educating someone else about macros. And that is completely normal. Like it's kind of something that you have to actually teach yourself. It's not something that we're really taught in school. Although I would say that they should start teaching this in school. It might make more sense. But even those pieces of learning foundations of like what a food is and breaking the habits of this long-standing low fat, low carb, keto, paleo, so many things that women and men are just so fixated on, and learning what food is and then learning how to fuel your body.
Yeah, and I think too, it sometimes comes down to, I'm all about self-discipline, and you should learn things for yourself and do things for yourself. But let me give you an example. There's 2 competing forces in today's world that I think make that difficult, and we all need to give ourselves some slack and outsource. And what I mean is busyness and then the vast amount of information. And what I mean by outsourcing is this. I'm a huge believer in self-discipline and those kind of things, but I don't think it's wrong because at the end of the day, you want to get the result, right? And I think it's definitely worthwhile to maybe not outsource. I mean, you can think about outsourcing accountability, or at least
outsourcing the knowledge.
Outsourcing the knowledge.
No, totally. Yeah.
I'm thinking about outsourcing the knowledge and outsourcing the accountability until you can
feel comfortable
and take that in and live it, breathe it, become it. And then be on the plan long enough to develop the accountability for yourself. And I think that we all think that I have to have all this accountability up front. I have to have all this knowledge up front by myself. I gotta go. But outsourcing that and doing what you do best, because in our world we're so stinking busy. I've tried to meal prep before. It just takes too long.
It's too
and
much
just,
time.
and it's too daunting. And then you try it once, and you're like, oh my gosh, you got all these things.
Then you
on the
cook all the
counter.
food and you don't want to eat it.
Yeah, and then you quit. And same thing. I want to be accountable. I'm going to do this. I'm self-disciplined. Until such time as you can develop that, why not outsource it? There's nothing wrong with that. Get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody to help you.
Sure.
Also, the knowledge you may not have. It's okay. Get somebody who does. And help them get them to teach you. And so I think there's something to that too. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I was saying. Like that is honestly what we coach our clients to is like, hey, we have the education and knowledge. Like we've taken the time, we've done it ourselves. We live this on a daily basis.
Right.
Let us keep you accountable
Right.
and teach you. And that's our goal that we talk about to them all the time is like, we want to educate you. We know you're not going to be with us lifetime.
Right.
We want to teach you the things. We're going to teach you at your pace that you're ready to learn and hold you accountable, but allow you this process so that then you can go and flourish on.
Do you think people sometimes feel guilty for not knowing or not, or like I should be more accountable on my own, or do they? Is that maybe why guys are hard to draw out? Maybe I don't know, or is that not at all a thing?
Like men don't ask for directions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel, especially the clients we work with, we're definitely working with a more seasoned demographic. I would say like our average client is 28 to 55. We have a couple
seasoned in life or seasoned
age wise. You know, I was
Okay.
trying not to say old because I'm falling into that category now.
Season?
You know,
like a well-aged
like
wine,
a well-aged
a fine wine.
we work with more clients that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s than we do on the like 18 to 30
Although we
range.
do have some.
We have a couple younger clients, but most of our clients are older and have families, have kids, have spouses. And so I think one of the common themes, especially from the women, is like guilt for trying to put themselves first.
Yes.
And there's this almost like this mom guilt of like, I should have my stuff together because so many people are counting on me. And honestly, it's the opposite. That's why you should have a coach that can help you because you have so many other people counting on you.
Do you think that people find you guys like if you I think throughout the years I've seen plenty of celebrity coaches and fitness gurus and things, and I've not often seen that accompanied by the crazy backstory or transformation that you guys did. The boxy mom who did the HIIT workouts to the sculpted, well-defined female bodybuilder, the overweight entrepreneur who lost equivalent of 2 people and had massive skin surgery and went on to win the summer shredding championships. But I mean, you're coming from a place that's very relatable.
Yes.
And then, so if they can do it, I can do it. Do you find that? Do people say that to you, your clients? They find that more relatable than other?
Yeah, I think that's why. I mean, we literally launched coaching like 3 months ago. I think that's why we've had such a fast growth inside of our coaching business, is because most of our clients have followed our journey and they've seen what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we do bring a level of uniqueness of relatability, right?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't always been super fit. Like 3 years ago, I'd never really stepped foot into a gym consistently. Like I may have picked up a weight here or there for a couple weeks at a time throughout my adult life. But 3 years ago is when I decided like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and it's going to become a part of my daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that never happened. So for a lot of our clients, they can relate because we're not just those like couple that's been fit our whole life that don't understand the mental struggle, the food addiction side of things, what it's like to have kids, what it's like to own a business. I feel like there's so many facets to our journey that can hit kind of every part of someone's life that makes it a lot easier to coach them, because there's a lot of conviction. Like when I have a conversation with a client, there's a lot of conviction and a lot of empathy, but there's also this sense of like no BS, because I've gone through it
Can't
too.
bullshit a bullshitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we feel so so we do Zoom calls every week with our coaching clients, and it's a live Zoom call, and it honestly has kind of turned into like this life coaching session where like we talk about fitness and nutrition, but we're also just talking about like relationships and just to like how like like level up your life, and I feel like it kind of has like coaching honestly has culminated for us into like everything we've done, which has been a lot of things which we've talked about, but it's all culminated into one thing, and that's helping people become their better selves. And so what's cool about us is that we've not always been our better selves, right? And we've been on this journey, but we kind of have this backstory was like that, man, we were really deep in the mud in it, and look what we've done. And so having that ability to kind of be that for clients is so huge, and we have such a passion behind it because we've been there. A lot of coaches haven't been there. They've always been fit their whole life, you know, and that's so they just don't understand. Right. But we know, and I feel so passionate. Like I get so just really passionate with my women clients because I want them to experience how we feel. Right. I want them to have a marriage like we have. I want them to feel how they can be a better person and have more confidence and like do whatever they want and feel like this. It's something that I want everyone to feel.
How does mental health affect your eating habits, and what strategies do you recommend to deal with emotional eating?
Okay. So the mental health, I kind of want to take that part because that is actually what started me on my journey. So I had seen Jeffrey.
Hold on. I gotta pee.
You gotta pee?
But you tell the story and I'll pee while you're
So I had actually seen Jeffrey go through 75 hard and was back in the gym. And it hit January. So right before he started having his going through phase 2, I ended up I used to travel for work, and I would be gone for a couple days and then come home. And I had a bout where I was in Hilton Head. And I used to do like home health. So we would do like ride along visits. And so I think 2020, I got my concealed weapons permit and carried a concealed weapon. So I still have that just for protection and going into patients' homes.
That's cool.
And so I would always carry my concealed weapon with me like when I traveled. And I had just been
what are you packing?
Struggling. Oh my gosh, I wish I knew what it was.
Come on.
It's black and it shoots. Okay, it's a Glock.
Glock, yeah.
I don't think it is. It's a Smith & Wesson, and it has like 3 different safeties, like the back strap. I should know. I don't know.
It's okay.
But I passed my test.
Yeah, nice.
Actually, I got like all of my things in the center. Like maybe I like secretly like I'm really good.
Target?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyways, moving on. Okay. So I had to come home and have this really hard conversation with Jeffrey. And I said, I just want you to know, please don't send me to an insane asylum. Like I am okay. I am having very intrusive thoughts, and all I want to do is kill myself. And so
when was this?
This was 2020, January 2020, 2021. I don't remember the timeline.
And you're driving around with a gun.
Might need to exit this house. Right. So he immediately took my concealed weapon from me.
No, seriously. This is responsible gun ownership.
For sure. Yeah.
This is.
So
I didn't even know we were going to go there today. That's really cool.
Yeah, and so good. I just said to him, I was just like, "There's."
And good for you for
like my life. My life is good.
So we're right in the middle of COVID at this point. What was going?
We're post COVID. So this was like.
Yeah, sorry. I think I might have messed up the timeline because I now was traveling for work.
This was 2022. So.
Yes.
Oh wow!
Right after I finished 75 hard.
Yeah. So it's 2022. So we ended up like I just was like, please don't share this with anyone. Like I don't.
Do you know where it came from? Just come out of the blue?
No.
Or?
So this is what I have to say. So he was like, okay, like, all right, I'm going to take your gun. Like, it's okay. And so I was just like, I'm going to like be vocal with you of like when I have these thoughts. I would just have these intense moments of like envisioning myself do it. It was very odd.
Wow.
But it was not brought on. Like I would literally be sitting there with
you
my
had a
kids.
Plan?
I didn't have a plan.
But it was like passive. This
moment would come over me, and I could just see myself doing it.
Wow.
But it would even be like I would be sitting there with the kids. It would be nighttime. We're doing bedtime routine, and I'm like, okay, it's happening right now. Like it keeps having.
How old
these
was
thoughts.
Hank? I mean, like, I'm
2
trying to figure out,
years?
we're not talking about postpartum.
No,
Okay,
this is way post.
Hmm.
This
I
is
think
way
it was
after.
like 3.
It was like 3.
3.5.
Wow.
So he says to me, because he's already on his whole journey, he says, "You need to get back in the gym." And I'm like, "Ooh, that's a hard conversation." And I'm like, I'd already been seeing him, and I'm like, I started making all these excuses. This day, particularly, that I had texted him saying, "Hey, I'm having this thought again." Levi happened to be home from school. He was sick. And I was like, I have a kid sick home from school. He goes, "He's not that sick." It was like one of those moments where he's like, I just want to stay home, and I could stay home with him. And he's like, "He's not that sick. Text the gym owner, like the gym that I used to go to. Just go today." And I was like, all right, fine. No excuses.
How
I need
does
to
a
go.
husband do that without pissing his wife off?
Yeah. Well, that's
no, I'm asking.
tough conversations in a loving way. That's why I say we've had very tough conversations. And so it was that day, January 25th.
Disclaimer: know your spouse. So
Yes,
like
for
if your
sure.
spouse doesn't respond well, like we've had enough hard conversations that I know I can say certain things without ruining
That's a
the
good
day.
point.
And
So-
That's a good
I
point.
knew
That's a good
he
point.
didn't mean it of like, oh, your body's not where I want
yeah.
it to be. It was a very like, you are mentally struggling. You need to go exert some of that stress.
Mhm.
And so it was January 25th, 2022. And that was my first day back in the gym. Now, I say
Wow.
that to say, then I started tracking food. And I very quickly correlated sugar consumption does very, very poorly for my mental health. I can eat something sugary, and I know the next day I am going to have very poor mental thoughts.
Wow.
It has been
And I think,
tremendous.
And I bet a lot of people would find the same thing if they tracked it. I think I would. I mean,
Yes.
I'm listening to you and thinking, my gosh, I think I have the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I think too that kind of
That's
led
very
us down the hormone journey as well.
Yes,
Because
that was a huge factor.
That's where we
as well.
started really getting into like, all right, are your hormones off balance? And that's where we both kind of started working on.
Yeah, because
perfecting
I
that
was
side of things.
eating perfectly, drinking the water, tracking my macros, and I was like, I'm tired.